Alrighty then, hello everyone, my name is Kane and welcome back to more Steins Linear Bounded Phenogram, and welcome back me to streaming. I swear, it's been a little bit of a while, I apologize for that. A lot happened. College, a wedding party happened, or just a wedding in general happened. So yeah, apologies on that, and I'm still not even quite I'm quite frankly not even fully through all that, so I can't promise that uploads are gonna become consistent for Steins Gate here, but at the very least, I can do an extra, I can at least do one more recording to one more stream today. So yeah, right now we have two different paths we can choose. For what chapter we want to do next of who we want to view. We could either do Kurisu's, or we could do Daru's. So the original, the divergence here for the first path was 0.33. That's very close to Kurisu's, but Daru's is for some reason 3. We haven't even seen what 3 equals for divergence, so very curious on what that entails. However, the question is, which do we go with first? Obviously we're gonna do all of them eventually. It's just a matter of which one do I want to do first. How about... How about we do Kurisu first? Let's start the Vermilion Soteria. Vermilion Soteria. I have to remember everything that I can. A dark space. Where am I? What is this place? Why am I here? Wait, am I even... My head throbs slightly. I look to my left and to my right, but I can't see a thing. Just a dark space. Pitch black. There's no sound but the ticking of a clock. Am I in a sensory deprivation tank? No, I don't remember entering one, and if I had, I wouldn't be able to hear anything. Tips list. Oh yeah, we also have our things. Okay, so sensory deprivation tank. A tank that blocks out all light and sound, typically used for training or experimentation. A liquid with high levels of buoyancy is utilized in the tank. Nornir. The plural form of Norn, the goddess of fate that appears in Norse mythology. This word typical refers to the trio of sisters, Erd, Verdandi, and Skuld. Floppy disk, a type of disk storage used from the 1970s through the 1990s. By using a special floppy disk drive, users can read and even copy data onto a disk. The disk itself is covered in a plastic case. There are 3 different types of floppies: 8-inch, 5.25-inch, and 3.5-inch. The most common ones are 3.5-inch floppy disks that hold 44 megabytes worth of data. After more external media debuted in the 2000s, floppy disk effectively disappeared. Oh yeah, there's also another thing I should mention. There was a follower that decided to follow me outside of streaming time, so Saneth JS, thank you for the follow. Hope you enjoy streams. Apologies. You followed on August 26th and it is now currently September 4th. I apologize. And I can still hear the eerie sound of a clock. Tick tock. I try to calm myself down and search my memories for answers. But my head is still unclear. Everything is foggy. Start with, who am I? I ask myself. But I can't remember anything. The sound of the clock is so unsettling, so strangely unsettling. I want to ignore it, but the harder I try, the worse it gets. It's scrambling my thoughts. Just why? This isn't one of Okabe's stupid pranks, is it? No, he wouldn't do anything this crazy. Huh? Okabe? Who is that? Even in this state, you still remember that name, do you? Huh? Oh, what the? Me? A female figure appeared before my eyes. Even with my uncertain memories, I was convinced the figure standing before me was me. So you understand at least this much, don't you, Makise Kurisu? Makise Kurisu. At that moment, a torrent of images rushed into my brain. 11 years ago, on my birthday, when I upset my dad and shattered our relationship. My mom had taken me with her as she moved to America, working brutally hard to graduate college early and working as a researcher at Victor Condria University's Neuroscience Institute. This year, when Papa, real name Shoichi Makise, publicly known as Dr. Nakabachi, sent me a letter saying he will hold a press conference to commemorate the completion of his time machine. Temporarily returning to Japan as a sort of reverse exchange student at a Japanese high school, and then... Huh? What's the matter? You don't remember? What happened next? I came to Japan and was murdered by my papa. No, that's not it. I met that weird person in the lab coat at the lecture and... No, I met that person in the white robe before Papa murdered me. My memories became convoluted. Multiple intersecting memories tangled up inside my head. I ended up being friends with Okabe, even though he initially annoyed me at the ATF lecture. That's right, I remember. Okabe Rentaro. It all started when he began claiming that I was a ghost and that I should already be dead. And then at the lecture, he disputed the theory that time machines cannot be made with the technology available to us in this timeline. Which caught my interest, so I went to visit his lab. And they really were making a time machine. That's right. Humans couldn't travel to the past in flesh, but they were able to send mails to the past. D-mail. That's right. Then we repeated the D-mail experiment to verify whether we could send a message to the past to change it. Then over the course of our experiments, Okabe and I... You seem to have remembered quite a bit. So, can you remember what you were doing just now? Now? What was I doing just now? Actually, that leads back to my original questions. Just what is this place? Yeah, I'm in the gear dimension. And why am I here? Thinking rationally, the most reasonable explanation is that this is a dream, and I'm currently asleep. As far as I can remember. I was staying up all night, upgrading the phone wave. I was trying to make a more advanced time machine that could not only D-mail to the past, but people's memories as well. But now I think of it, I don't remember falling asleep. It's just a daydream. It's unusual for it to have taken over my senses to this extent. You're on the right track, but you're also incorrect. How could it be both? Wouldn't that just mean I'm wrong? How very like you. Always demanding such black and white answers. If there's no right or wrong in terms of the words we use to communicate, the meanings we assign to them lose their value. Isn't that only natural? Yes, you're right. You should be just as you are. Even in the coming story you will soon experience. Story? What is she saying? Most dreams tend to be an incoherent mishmash of ideas, which makes them relatively logical makes the relatively logical through line of this conversation all the more strange. Even if my brain's producing this dialogue by association with external stimuli, there are still many odd factors. There's no need to be so deeply concerned. You should just accept things as they are, and simply be as you are. The story may be like a mirage. Your memory is vanishing the moment you leave this place. Or maybe some sort of illusion. Perhaps it's a vision of something that never existed. An unexplored possibility. Is it literally referring to the fact that this game is like going through scenarios that never happened in the main games? Regardless, now that you're here, you have both the right and responsibility to see it through to the end. What do you mean? August 13th. On August 13th, 2010, at 2:06 p.m., this is where our story starts. And it concludes at 5:34 p.m. the same day. Huh? My consciousness jolts in reaction to the date, the time. A time not in my memory. But for some reason, deep inside my heart, I felt shaken. My consciousness fades. The sound of the clock won't leave my ears. The wheels of time. They draw an infinite spiral that eventually loops back to whence it came. I should know full well where this trail leads. That's why you must confirm things for yourself. And save it all. Save yourself. Save him. Wait a minute, you can't just force me to... My consciousness rapidly clouds. The sound of the clock gets louder, as if to consume my thoughts. My awareness flakes away as the bell rings. It's like I'm falling asleep. Or rather, waking from a dream. And then... Done. Oh gosh. This is weird seeing Okabe. Connecting the last two cables, I declared my success to the lab mems, and especially Okabe. I've successfully upgraded the phone wave, creating what may be the world's first... Am I having a stroke? What's going on here? Creating what may be the world's first time machine, capable of sending not only information through time, but humans themselves. Okay, hang on. I'm gonna have an actual stroke at this rate. Ugh. What the... Creating what may be the world's first time machine, capable of sending not only information through time, but humans themselves. I improved the email functionality, the technology that lets us send information to the past via email, to allow us to compress the human consciousness to 36 bytes and send it to the past. Hey game. I don't like you. Why do I not like you, game? Oh, for a very simple fact, actually. The fact that it's August 13th on the Alpha World line, which means it's the day that Mayuri gets murdered a bunch. Why? Why does this game exist with the pure function of making me suffer? I thought I was going to go into this side game of the... Like, I knew that this game wasn't like... Like, I figured this entire game, considering we were going to be viewing things from other people's perspectives, I figured this, like, all the stories here would be just fully silly and, you know, like, nothing serious. Like, maybe a little bit serious in certain storylines, but nothing like the main games. And then I'm hit with the first chapter with Okabe, where he's apparently used a freaking llama superhero to cover up the friggin' to get away from the fact that Mayuri's been killed a year ago. And now I'm on the same day that Mayuri gets murdered a billion times. This game's sole functionality is to make me suffer in the most painful ways imaginable. Of course, the sender and receiver must be the same person, and we can only send their consciousness, or to be more specific, their memories. Nonetheless, the machine represents humanity's first steps into the realm of time travel. I believe we may have just created something extraordinary. You mean a monster? That's right. We created a power that can transcend the law of causality and change the world. Everyone here understood the weight of what we'd done. And so, though we we were in the presence of this tremendous invention, none of us expressed even a hint of excitement. I've done something terrible. My chest is filled with dread. I follow my personal impulses to test my theory and bring my idea into being. Propelled by my lab mem's shared passion, I pressed onwards with my creation. Now that it's completed, I'm completely overwhelmed. Initially, I had a feeling that I shouldn't create a time machine. The very existence of a time machine defies common sense. It holds the power to rewrite history, to change the past, present, and future. Our world is governed by the law of cause and effect, but a time machine completely breaks this rule. In the event of a failure, one can travel back in time to remove the cause of said failure, thus ensuring that it never happens. A disruption would be the same. Travel to the past, divert or eliminate the interruption, and you can complete what you were working on undistracted. This is akin to holding the power of God in your hands, military and politically at least. Scientifically, its value is immeasurable, which is precisely why this technology must not be allowed to exist. The power of a time machine would be too much for humanity to handle in a more civilized future, let alone now. The rockets and nuclear weapons of the 20th century were the same way. The small number of people who controlled these technologies created an imbalance of power on the world stage. Even in the 21st century, the scars of that imbalance still remain. Scars that restrict scientists such as myself to this day. But now, I've created this. I've created a time machine. For no reason other than I wanted to see if I could. I understand how dangerous it could be, and even feared it. I rejected the very idea that it could even exist, but even then, I was driven by my curiosity about the unknown and my desire as a researcher to push the bounds of possibility. The same motivators that led me here, the Future Gadget Laboratory, in the first place. When I saw the experience Okabe and the others were conducting, when I saw them send mail to the past with the phone wave, curiosity consumed me. And the result was this upgraded phone wave.
What do you want, Daru?
Kashida.
What do you want, Mayuri?
Mayuri.
I am still not accustomed to seeing this. I actually think that... Did this portrait of Okabe ever get shown in the first game? Because I don't know if it did. Like, I know that you saw Okabe... There were obviously times where you got to see what Okabe looked like in the original game, but never with this, like, this specific kind of portrait. Like, whenever you saw Okabe in the original game, it was mostly through things like the, like those special, big images that, like, took up the whole screen. Like the ones that include, like, whatchamacallit, what was it? Shoot. Kurisu's corpse falling on your body. I don't know why that was the one that came to mind, but gosh dang it. Anyways, the point I'm trying to make is I don't think this specific portrait of Okabe existed in the first game, and if it did, it appeared so infrequently that I don't even think I ever saw it. And even the leader of the Future Gadget Laboratory, the self-proclaimed notorious mad scientist Huin Kyoma Okabe, none of them could bring themselves to speak. I looked from face to face, seeing uncertainty in each one. But eventually, unsurprisingly, the first to speak was Okabe. First order of business will be coming up with an official name. All things considered, the way he directs everyone else around him is very leader-like. That said, given that his first reaction is for us to come up with a name, tells me that he's not taking this seriously enough. Eventually, we decided that the upgraded phone wave would be given the name the Time Leap Machine, though that was also subject to change. Okabe came up with a far more chunibyo name during the process, but ultimately Mayuri chose the simple name that I proposed. Then, at Okabe's urging, I proceeded to explain how the Time Leap Machine functions. So this seems to be... You know, I'm curious. The divergence here was like 3.3 or something like that, or 3.2, 32, or 0.32, sorry. It was either 0.33 or 0.32. I wonder if that's the exact divergence that was that we were at in the first game when we, during the time when we first witnessed Mayuri's death. Is this actually the same divergence timeline? Oh god.
Essentially, this device converts one's memories into data, passes that data through a ring singularity,
and sends it to the past. I'm pretty sure this is the same thing it showed before, didn't it? This feels familiar. Me on August 13th, 2010. Hippocampus CA3, scan memory data 3.24 terabytes, encode nerve impulse to electrical signal, use the time leap machine, upload 40 to 50 seconds, through CERN, generate black hole with LHC, use the black hole to compress 3.24 terabytes into 36 bytes. We then retrieve that in 23 milliseconds, it through the time leap machine. The time leap is then used like a D-mail and sends it to the me on August 8th, 2010, which receives it and memory data is overwritten. Beep, beep, beep.
the receiver will then acquire the memories of their future self. The time leap machine's biggest innovation, as stated previously, is the ability to send the user's memories into the past. To transcend time, something must pass through a ring singularity. Simply put, the area near a black hole, if anything physical attempted this, it would be crushed by the black hole's supergravity. Suffice it to say, physical objects won't be traveling through time anytime soon. However, we were able to circumvent this issue by converting the user's memory into data and sending that data through this ring singularity. And that was only made possible by the existence of CERN's LHC. Hashiya's hacking gave us the ability to manipulate the LHC, which is able to create many black holes. In turn, this allowed us to utilize the infinite compression of the supergravity created by the black holes to adequately compress the memory data. With this extraordinary power, we were able to complete the time leap machine. I finished talking about the time leap machine's functions and dangers, then take a breath. It seems that Mayuri has zoned out because of the complexity of the topic, but Okabe and Nishida seem to have understood sufficiently. Poor Mayuri. Then, my lengthy explanation complete, silence descends upon the laboratory once again.
Well, what now? I don't feel like I want to continue this game already. Mainly because I don't want to watch Mayuri get murdered a bunch of times. This time through freaking... in other characters' perspectives. Help! Y'all want to go get a soda or something?
Okabe, Hashiya, and I study each other's facial expressions. It's clear that we're all trying to delay an important decision. How to make use of our time machine's godlike power. Once again, Okabe finally broke the long silence. He cleared his throat, took a breath, and spoke.
What should we do? What do you mean, what should we do? How do we use the time leap machine? I don't know.
Okabe surveys the room as he speaks. His gaze settles on me. He probably wants me to state my opinion. Sitting in silence in the middle of the debate, as you might expect, is a faux pas. It is a researcher's duty to offer and discuss their opinion, whatever it may be. But I had my reasons for not speaking up. I was conflicted. Obviously, this isn't something we can freely use. As I said earlier, to monopolize and abuse an ability so godlike would produce the same sort of problems that nukes do. However, it would be a lie to say that I didn't want to experiment. I wanted nothing more than to test my creation out and see if it worked. This is absolutely my ego speaking, my self-righteous, inconsiderate desires as a scientist. This is like Werner von Braun, who, in pursuing his desire to go to the moon, developed rockets for the military.
Excuse you? Werner Magnus Maximilian Freiherr von Braun. That is an exceedingly long name. One of the fathers of space travel. In order to develop rockets that could go to the moon, he made several deals with the military and the government. He was a man willing to sell his soul to the devil if it meant traveling to space. I see. Huh. Yeah. Yeah, that's a very apt description, I would argue.
Only to see his V2 rockets turn London into a sea of flames.
A German-developed liquid propellant rocket used during World War II. Its supersonic flight speeds made it difficult to intercept. It is the grandfather of all current space rocket and missile technology. My internal sense of what's right and my desires as a researcher were in conflict with one another. Which is why, when Okabe's gaze fell upon me, I felt there was nothing I could say. Why is this man only serious in times like this? I grit my teeth and inaudibly curse under my breath. This man, Okabe Rentaro, is a surprisingly serious person. Even his Chunibyo comes out in full force when he's worried or backed into a corner. When I talk about my problems with my father, or if the other labmans are having a hard time, he treats us all with care and respect. And I can tell from the look on the face that he's absolutely serious right now. The one staring at me isn't Hugh and Kyoma, but Okabe Rentaro. This isn't something we can handle alone, that's for sure. The safest thing we can do is hand it over to a research institution and treat it as a national project. I admired my response, knowing full well that I hadn't quite convinced myself. I want to experiment. However, there's no way we can handle something like a time machine, and given the risk involved, I don't just want to use it on a whim.
I just can't wrap my head around the fact that it's real.
I can't wrap my head around any of this.
I know, Mayuri, don't worry.
Well, Mayushi, that might be because you didn't really work on it, right?
I guess so.
Thank you, Mayuri.
It didn't seem like Kushida and Mayuri understood the enormity of the situation at first, but from the way they're acting, I can tell that they aren't completely blind to it. Which means that the most important opinion is Okabe's. What about your opinion, Okabe? And to clarify, I'm not asking for Hewing's, but Okabe's. I emphasize this last point. Given that Okabe often retreats into the Chunibyo act when he's stressed, there's a possibility he would have answered me as Hugh and Kyoma. Still, I think the chances of that would be fairly slim even if I hadn't nipped it in the bud. As I mentioned earlier, Okabe is fairly serious deep down. In a sense, the reason I emphasized my desire to hear Okabe's opinion was to show my faith in him. As long as it is Okabe Rentaro who speaks, and not Hugh and Kyoma, I will abide by his decision. That was my intent. Even if he decided to perform an experiment, I would be willing to be our test subject. I want to do an experiment. Okabe said after a moment of silence. I swallowed my breath. If that's what you decided. My resolve strengthened. Those words were on the tip of my tongue. Before I could speak them into being, Okabe continued his thought and put an abrupt stop to my momentum. But there are too many problems to actually perform a time leap right now. His assertions were correct. The time leap machine alone had its share of problems. And that's before we got it to time paradox. For one thing, we can't conduct an experiment with an animal or stand-in. We need a human test subject. I thought of experimenting on myself, but I have to admit, I was afraid. Although I was prepared to offer myself up as a test subject in my excitement, Okabe's words put a stop to that. He asked the other lab members if they were willing to volunteer. Unfortunately, by halting my momentum, Okabe may have put a stop to our experimentation. There was no way Hashida or Mayuri would have volunteered. And I think Okabe might have known that. The fact that he spoke at that exact moment may have been a calculated move to kill my momentum. He usually acts like he's incapable of such calculations, but I understand that his intelligence skyrockets in critical situations like this. Or rather, I've come to understand that. Hey. After some half-hearted exchanges, the conversation once again came to a stalemate. Mayuri, who had been silently watching this whole time, finally spoke up. Mayushi doesn't know much about complicated stuff, but could we just time leap one of the bananas that Mayushi brought home? While untenable, I could tell that Mayuri had put some thought into the idea. Her carefree attitude helped soothe my frayed nerves.
Let us time leap a banana. Tell me, Banana, what do you remember from the future?
Well, Mayuri, bananas don't have brains like humans do they? That's right. As I mentioned earlier, the time leap machine needs a human test subject. That was the source of all my fears. And one of the major hurdles to overcome for this machine. Oh, that's right. That's no good then. Mayuri didn't even try to defend her idea after my explanation. She may have been aware that her theory was misguided in the first place. So does that mean she thought it necessary to speak up to ease the tension in the air? Maybe she didn't think it so much as feel it. I fully understand in the 2 weeks that we spent together that she's no fool. Knowing that, perhaps my suppositions aren't too off base. In her game, it seems to work. It seemed to have worked. The tension filling the lab had now transformed into something different. Let's leave this alone for now. Okabe said, as if guided by the change in atmosphere. We should hand over the time machine to an appropriate research institution. Furthermore, we will publicize it. Neither Cheetah nor I had any objection to this decision. As long as we entrusted the decision to him, that was the sure outcome. A little while later, I was finally able to calm myself down. Humanity's first time traveler. The temptation to use the time machine to claim that title was nearly overwhelming, to be honest. It would both prove my proposed theory and symbolize humanity's first step into a previously unknown dimension. I imagine the first people on the moon felt much the same way. But at the same time, there's still fear inside of me. Both the fear of the unknown and, worse yet, the fears passed down to me by my father. My father, Shuichi Makise, is a time machine researcher. But because time travel theory is not yet sufficiently tested, the field is publicly regarded as little more than crazy pseudoscience. My father, Papa, lost everything when people labeled him as a junk scientist. He was so attached to the idea of the time machine that he lost his job as a researcher, separated from me and my mama, and was even abandoned by his best friend who was funding his research. But research often pushes into the realms outside of common knowledge. The now commonly accepted Big Bang Theory and the theory that black holes were collapsed stars were both laughed at the time of their publication. The theory that the universe came into existence through a huge explosion. The name itself came from Fred Hoyle, who at the time favored a different cosmological model. On his radio program, he said these theories were based on the hypothesis that all the matter in the universe was created in one Big Bang. While at the time this was believed to be a pejorative, Hoyle would go on to say that he had meant to create a striking image so that as to better highlight the differences between the two theories. The theory was said to be heretical at the time. Also, I can open the phone. What does Karisu's phone look like? You can just have a photo of yourself, Karisu. That's cool. Address book. I can't open the address book. No inbox mail, no outbooks mail. Why can't I open the address book? Theories that we now consider essential to our understanding of the universe were thought to be junk science. That's why, as a scientist, it's inappropriate to reject things without a second thought, even if they are seen as crazy. All things deserve proper verification and confirmation. While I told myself this, I still found it hard to accept. In my mind, ideas that are too bizarre, too crazy, or too new are best avoided. To be blunt, the Big Bang and black hole theories were the exception to the rule. Most of the junk theories we see in this world end up being just that, junk. The time machine theory is certainly among their ranks. There's very little evidence to back up the time travel claims, and mountains of reasons to reject them. In essence, it's the junkiest of all junk. So as a scientist, simply the fact that we've made a time machine is incredibly stressful. We basically rejected all the science. I don't want to end up like Papa. That fear strikes me directly in the heart. But that's not my only fear related to him. If my Papa, who sacrificed everything in his life to research time machines, if he found out that someone else had successfully created a time machine, I'm afraid of how you'd feel. It's true that Papa and I were estranged because I rejected his time machine theory when I was younger. But at the same time, that theory motivated me. If the time loop machine actually works, regardless of whether or not his specific theory is correct, Nobody could call him a junk scientist for studying time travel anymore. He might even be able to receive funding from a major company again. It's hard to stand still thinking of that. I could fulfill several personal goals by testing the time leap machine. Sating my curiosity about the unknown, fulfilling my desires as a scientist, enabling my papa to be accepted by the scientific community, enabling him to accept me. At the end of the day, all of them only serve to feed my ego. That's no reason for us to wield the powers of a god. Okabe's decision to call off the experiment helped me realize this. I breathed a sigh of relief from the bottom of my heart. It took some time for me to accept it, but I can't help but think how extraordinary Okabe is. He helped me realize something I nearly lost sight of. He may be an annoying, crazy Chunibyo, but still. I suddenly look at the clock. 4:54 p.m. I don't like this. Don't like this at all. I don't remember the exact time it said, but it was something 5.
We are within an hour.
Was it already this late? I guess time flies when you're sleep deprived. Almost 5. Though we opted not to test the time leap machine, Mayuri suggested that we celebrate its completion, which turned out to be a good decision. It'd be a shame not to have any sort of event to look forward to after working through the night. I'm not one for parties, but the lab I worked at in America would take any excuse to throw one. My professors and supervisors told me that we scientists wouldn't last long without them. Which is why it was just about time for me to go out and buy party supplies. Okabe and I have been tasked with shopping for food and drinks. Mayuri has already gone out to invite the other lab members, and Hashida had left citing some other obligations.
You know what? I'm very curious. I wonder if Okabe is going to time leap. Like, are we going to see what it looks like from an outsider's perspective of what it looks like to time leap? Because we never actually got to see what it looked like when somebody else, like... We never got to see what it looked like when somebody else received the time leap. Because, like, obviously we were the ones doing the time leaps. The only exception to this is Luca. Because during his ending, we did time leap. Luca was the only other person to ever time leap. And I guess Nae, but we didn't get to watch her. But yeah, in the first game, both Lukaku and Nae did technically time leap, but we didn't really get to get a proper view of what it looked like when that happened. So I'm wondering, are we going to actually get a proper view of what it looks like when somebody receives their own memories from the future? I'm very curious. I think we are. I'm very scared, curious, and excited to see this all in one.
All of a sudden, Okabe's cell phone rings.
Oh, great. It's going to be fascinating watching him deteriorate from a different perspective.
Someone calling to say that they're coming to the party? Or it could be Mayuri Hashida. Okabe answers and puts the phone to his ear without a greeting. He lets out a trembling breath. Based on his reaction, it's likely that Hashida's launched into some lengthy story. It's certainly not the way he would answer a call from Mayuri. I approach the sofa where my jacket lays, intending to swap it with my lab coat and head outside. At that moment, out of the corner of my eye, I see Okabe lift a folding chair into the air.
Okabe, what the hell are you doing?
Yep.
Break it.
Shocked at what I was seeing, I ran over and grabbed a hold of him. I planted my way out on the tatami mat on the floor and reached up to catch his arms before he brought the chair down.
He's trying to destroy the time leap machine.
I was so surprised that I didn't even have time to think. What was Okabe trying to do just now? If I'm seeing things correctly, Okabe was about to bring that chair down on the time leap machine. Did you just try to destroy it? I couldn't believe what was happening. Okabe probably cared more about this machine than anyone else. While he decided against using it, its very existence marked the beginning of a new era for humanity. So why would he just destroy it? At this point, the machine is not just our own. One could call it an asset to the entire human race. An asset like that absolutely must not be destroyed by a single man's decision.
Oh god, we actually get to watch this. This is kind of terrifying, gonna be real to you. Hi, Okabe! Gigi, how many times? I don't remember how many times at this point would Okabe have witnessed Mayuri's death. How many times would he have witnessed Mayuri's death before he decided, hey, I'm going to try and destroy the time link machine? Because I don't think it's the first time. And I don't think, like, I think he's at minimum, he's seen Mayuri die twice, at minimum. I don't remember what number time leap he decided to try and destroy the time leap machine, though. But I do remember we did try doing that in the main game, I'm pretty sure. Okabe stares blankly into space without saying a word. He wasn't so much looking at me as looking through me. There's no need to destroy anything. My voice trembles. I don't understand. Perhaps this is an Okabe that I've never seen. One I don't even know. We're not going to perform any time leaps. We already decided that. Isn't that good enough? I was angry, confused, and above all, uncertain. Once again, the fear of the unknown crept over me. All these feelings mixed together and spread through my body. Just put the chair down. Still struggling with how to resolve the situation, I ordered Okabe to put the chair down. He slowly complied. That's when I realized Okabe's aura had completely changed since just a few minutes ago. Nice pose, Okabe. His face showed signs of distress. He looked like an old man who had lived through a life of suffering. I don't know what happened to him, but his pained expression looked as if it had been carved from the Okabe I once knew. You look pale. What's wrong? Okabe doesn't respond to my ignorant question. He completely clams up. The agony on his face is clear as day, yet he chooses to suffer in silence. If this was his usual Chunibyo nonsense, if it was all an act, that would be fine, and in fact, I wish it were. I'd rather Okabe try to make a fool out of me than suffer something that would make him look like this. Are you listening to me? Frustrated that I don't understand Okabe's pain, I closed in on him as if to press for an answer. And in response, Okabe ran. Hey, wait! Ignoring my words, Okabe dashes out of the lab. I tried to stop him, but I couldn't move fast enough. Hold on! I told you to stop! Angrily shouting at him, I ran after Okabe as he took off towards the streets of Akihabara. Oh. But his head start was too great. By the time I reached the hall, Okabe was nowhere to be seen. I wonder if this is going to be the, is this going to be the time leaps where we, where Okabe talks to Kurisu at, like, the, at the, like, walkway area or whatever? The one where there's the image of Okabe sitting down and Kurisu just looking down on him? Where'd he go? Why would he do that? My head swimming with questions as I tried to intuit which way Okabe ran. I heard a door open behind me.
Hey, what's going on? What's all the ruckus?
The voice behind me belonged to this building's owner, Tanuji-san. Oh, I'm sorry. Did you happen to see which way Okabe went?
Oh, what's he up to now? I figured someone had to be up given how fast he ran out of there.
Tanuji-san tilts his head and stretches his shoulders with a groan. It doesn't seem like he got a good look from inside his shop. As I turned back towards the street and tried to decide which way to go, Nai-chan emerged from the shop as well.
I saw Uncle Ocarine run in that way. He looked kind of scary.
Nai points down the road heading towards Akihabara Station. If you follow that road from the lab, you'll find a park 50 meters away from that creates a T-shaped intersection. From there, the path splits. One road leads toward Kanda Myojin Shrine, and the other towards Choudori. A shrine to Akihabara's west that looks down on the land of Moe from atop a hill. A place to worship Okuninushi no Mikado, or Daikoku-sama, and Taira no Masakado. About 10 minutes away from the Akihabara station and about 10 minutes away from Akihabara station and 5 minutes away from Okabe's lab. There's no way for me to tell which way he went. Okabe.
Did something happen?
No, nothing important. Just a little confusion, so don't worry. Thank you, Nai-chan. Chan. I think Nai and run toward the heart of Akihabara, hoping to find Okabe. There's no way I can leave him in the state he's in. I had the feeling that I needed to ask him what was really going on before he did something that couldn't be undone. I scoured Akihabara, wandering aimlessly through the Kondamyojin Shrine, the Sumagoi Shrine, and Chuodori until eventually I found myself in an alley behind Daibiru. The sun nearly set, dyeing everything around me in the distinctive amber glow of the August twilight. Where are you? I'm completely spent. My breathing had grown ragged, not because I didn't exercise, but because I hadn't run this much in a long time. A nearby vending machine caught my eye, and I suddenly realized just how thirsty I was. No Dr. P, huh?
Duh. A fine carbonated drink with the history spanning over 100 years. Drinking is said to stimulate the brain cells. Due to its unique flavors, opinions on it are split. Thank you, game.
No more than ever, I wanted a nice, refreshing carbonated beverage. Unfortunately, since they didn't sell my favorite brand, I had to settle for a can of coffee. I sigh as I take in my surroundings. No sign of Okabe here either. Where have you gone? I felt like cursing him out, but what came out of my mouth was just the opposite. I wasn't angry at him, I was worried. I finished my drink, tossed the can into the recycle bin, and continued to look around. I don't know why I'm so worried about him. Because we're allies. It's because of what he said to me? When did I start taking an interest in him in the first place? I was curious enough to observe him at the start, of course, but when did that basic interest become something more? I've only known him for a few days, and my reservations have already been swept away. To be fair, I initially thought he was some sort of gangster or criminal, so those reservations were somewhat misplaced. It made me realize just how much of a facade I had built for myself during my time in America. While I've certainly been annoyed by some of my more stupid conversations with Okabe and Hashida, they've never caused me pain. Somehow, while it's hard to admit, I think I might be in love with Okabe. I think I felt from the moment he said he'd go to Aomori with me.
Aw. Of course, you're my assistant, and I will do whatever it takes to ensure that you are in peak mental condition for the experiment.
Honestly, to me, it felt like a proposal. The moment he said that, time seemed to stand still.
Aw.
Kinda pissed me off. I thought that Okabe must tell women stuff like that all the time. Otherwise, there's no way that 6, no, 5 out of the 8 lab members would be women. Of course, that sort of thing would make women like me misunderstand what he really means. Does that idiot even know what he's doing? Or maybe it's a sign of weakness on the part of the ones who fall for it, suckered in by a massive rush of dopamine. Ever since he told me he'd go down more with me, I watched that stupid man carefully. His words, his mannerisms. The more I watched him, the more I understood the meaning behind his Chunibyo act. And the more attracted to him I became. No, there's no way I can admit that. I can't admit it. I can't, but... well, you know... he's kind of attractive. In that moment I realized that I had given in. In that moment I understood that being near him put me at ease. Or at least it would be if it weren't for the newfound nervousness after realizing my feelings for him. It's too late to try and control it now. I'm not the kind of person who can change her feelings when she's fallen for someone. I realized that the persona I had wore at Victor Condry University's Neuroscience Institute, that of the outward-looking citizen, was unnecessary in front of Okabe. And when I let the mask fall, I felt at ease, more so than I ever have in my life. It's the same sort of freedom I got when I post on the @ channel. But Okabe is suffering, as if his joy is inversely proportional to my own. It's like he's unable to move forward. Though I don't know why yet, it seems that whenever he deviates from his usual state, my condition deteriorates as well. It's like I can't get air into my lungs. I don't like that feeling. Stop trying to struggle through it alone and talk to me. You listened to my problems, didn't you? My thoughts are interrupted by the sound of my cell phone.
Ashita?
Hello?
Oh, hey, Makiseshi. Is something up? No one's here at the lab.
Without wasting a second, I tell Ashita all about Okabe's odd behavior. I initially ran after him out of adrenaline and momentum alone, but now I realize that searching for him myself would be unproductive.
It's Ocarine Steel. Alright, I'll ask around on my end. I'll let everyone know to contact you if they have any information.
Understood. I'm counting on you. I hope someone out there can help us find a clue. Closing my cell phone with what looked like a prayer, I ran off once more into the sunlit city in search of Okabe. As I wandered the city in search of Okabe, I suddenly realized how crowded the streets had become.
Hey, dear. They stopped the train over a terrorist threat.
Terrorists?
Seriously? They're gonna make me late for my meeting. I ever hear some unsettling news? Terrorists here in Japan? As shocking as the thought was, no country, no matter how peaceful, is immune from the possibility of a terrorist attack. And with public unrest growing lately, that only seemed to be on the rise. Because research facilities are often targeted, I've been given basic lectures on how to deal with acts of terror. But even then, I never thought I'd have to deal with an attack in Japan. Whether or not the rumor was true, the trains had been stopped. The once bustling railways now stood bare. I opened my phone and take a look at @Channel's news page to see it bustling with threads on the topic.
Is it true that a bomb threat stopped all trains on the Yamanote line, and Sobu line, and Keihin line, Tohoku line? Old news. It's all stopped. I'm still stuck in Akiba. Where was the bomb? So fake. Lololol. Terrorism in Japan? Seriously? Ha ha ha. Dumbasses. Why would anyone launch a terrorist attack on Japan now? I'm in Shinjuku. They forced us to get off the train. The attendants are evacuating us to shelter. Up pics. Don't give me a tip on LOL. Laugh out loud by inserting LOL into the middle or at the end of a sentence. The speaker can convey that they are laughing. On message boards, users can also type them out in succession. Lol, to strengthen the expression or even ridicule someone. For example, haha, lol, sure, lol. Thank you, game.
Hilo already uploaded pictures of station attendants escorting people out of the stopped trains. It seemed like it must have been going on for a while. In front of Akihabara Station, the crowd was so thick that they blocked the view of the road. They'd be practically impossible to walk through. What should I do? I know Okabe in these conditions would be a challenge. What if he got caught up in the terrorist attack somehow? Numerous possibilities swirl through my brain, coming and going like a hurricane. None of them are good. Anxiety, dread, pessimism, fear, frustration, unease. I can't just stand here. I can't decide what to do. I know that acting without care could be fatal, but I can't even begin to formulate a plan.
Eh?
Felis Nyanyan, Paris-san. She's lab member number 7, isn't she?
Makise Kurisu-san, nice to meet you. I'm Paris Nyanyan. I'm sending this address that Darnyan gave me. We found Okabe-san, but he's acting strange. We should hurry and meet up somewhere. Where's good for you?
They found Okabe after all. Thank goodness. The part where she said he's acting strange disturbs me. I didn't know why, but a chill slowly ran down my spine.
Nice to meet you. This is Makise. I'd be a huge help if you could bring Okabe to the lab. I'll head there now.
I replied to her email and then took a breath. My chest feels like it's going to be crushed with worry. Okabe, what happened to you? Dragging my tired feet, I walked back the way I came. I rendezvoused at the lab to find Okabe, a petite maid, and a middle-aged butler waiting for me.
Oh, this is not the same. This is different. Never in the original playthrough, as far as I can remember, there was never a time leap during the August 13th where Okabe was taken back by Ferris and her butler. I can't remember. I don't think there was ever a time like that.
I assumed that the maid was Ferris' son. The middle-aged butler, on the other hand, was a mystery to me. He looked as though he'd stepped right out of a manga or an anime. Okabe looks worn out to the point that it doesn't even seem like he can stand on his own. Ferris' son and the butler are holding him up with their shoulders. Okabe! I rushed towards him without thinking.
Are you Makise-san?
I am. Thank you, Ferris-san, for finding Okabe. She had told me about before that this girl was a Rhinet champion and that Ferris Nyanyan was a stage name of sorts.
Not at all. As soon as Darnyan told me that what was going on, I couldn't just twiddle my thumbs. I didn't know all the details, but I knew I needed to find him. For some reason, though, I haven't heard from Darnyan in a while.
Oh god.
Does she mean Hashida? Could he still be searching for Okabe? Let's put that aside for now. And Okabe, is he...
He's a little calmer now, but when I spotted him at the UPX bridge, we really thought he was about to die.
God. Don't tell me he was about to jump.
His face is as white as a sheet of paper now. So hearing that he was even in an even worse condition earlier makes my heart ache. Okabe's thoughts, his feelings... I have to find out what's going on through his head. Okabe, what happened?
He's basically gone catatonic at this rate.
But Okabe just stares at nothing. He doesn't make any effort to look at me.
Slap him. Do something.
There's no use in wasting our time out here. Come on, let's go up to the lab. We asked the butler to shoulder the hollow-eyed Okabe for us and made our way into the lab. I turned on lights and was greeted by a horrifying sight. What the hell? Bloodstains on the floor.
It's Mayuri. Great, we get to watch Mayuri. I can't escape this. Why is it in every game they have to kill her or show her dead in some fashion? I can't escape.
Why? Your son gasped behind me. Her reaction was nothing compared to Okabe.
Bro is so devastated he broke the text box. I'm trying to make a joke, but it's honestly just to mask the pain of knowing the situation again. Yuri.
His screams echoes through the lab. He curls into a fetal position, weeping as he calls Mayuri's name. Okabe! Kyoma! We stood frozen, unsure of how to approach Okabe in this situation. In the middle of the chaos, the butler alone calmly surveyed the room.
Excuse me.
While the rest of us stood in shocked silence, he boldly approached the bloodstains and began to examine them.
It appears that there were no fatalities. With this amount of blood, the risk of death should be negligible.
Wait, what?
The butler's calm, confident declaration made Okabe stand up and rush toward him.
No risk of death. Is Mayuri safe? And Daru too.
Okabe looked like a man possessed. Okabe thinks this blood might belong to Mayuri and Hashida. But no, he's convinced of it.
Well, they certainly weren't murdered here. Judging from the blood splatter, it seems someone was struck with a metal object, but it doesn't appear that anyone collapsed. There's signs of struggle, but it seems it occurred while everyone was standing. It seems to me that they were taken away while they were still standing.
Taken away. Turn. Rounders, maybe.
With tears in his eyes, Okabe nearly collapses under the weight of his despair. I grab him by the arm before he can.
Talk, Okabe. What in the world is going on? What happened to Mayuri and Hashida?
Try as I might, it was impossible to keep my cool. Two of my friends had just disappeared, leaving only bloodstains in their wake.
It's possible that... I can't say for sure, but I believe they were taken by CERN's rounders. CERN? Excuse me, why? The timely machine. They found us. My heart stopped. CERN, the European Society for Nuclear Research, the world's largest particle physics research organization. Despite their over 40 years of time machine research, they've kept the results hidden from the rest of the world. Rumor has it that they even killed the human test subjects in their secret time travel experiments. Wait a minute, if they were after the time loop machine, why would CERN kidnap Mayuri and Hashida? Besides, how does a research institution pull off something like this? CERN has operational forces known as Rounders. In order to ensure their exclusive control over time machine technology, they attacked us during our celebration party and killed Mayuri right here. What? But the butler just said... I looked to the butler for confirmation that Okabe was incorrect. The butler merely shook his head with a slight smile. He seems confident in his assessment. The reason for Okabe's grim proclamation was made clear by what he said next. That's why I jumped back to the past with the time leap machine. Wait, then you're... I leapt through time. My mind went blank for a moment. He traveled through time using a time leap machine. The machine we'd agreed not to use due to the need for human testing. Though I had full confidence in my time travel theory, all theories were subject to experimentation and analysis before they're recognized as valid. That's why I felt both relief and regret when we decided not to test the time leap machine. What Okabe just said validates my theory and speaks to the machine's effectiveness. Say I was unhappy would be a lie. For a researcher, nothing compares to the moment a breakthrough theory of hers is proven true. For just a moment, the terrifying situation I was in melted away. All I wanted to do was ask Okabe about traveling through time. This feeling of elation was shattered by Okabe's sorrowful howl. To save Mayuri! Save Mayuri? But I can't! And why? Why can't I save her? Tell me! Why is it that Mayuri has to die? Mayuri has to die? I tremble at the cruelty of those words. It hurts, honestly, seeing Okabe's expressions now. We now get to see what Okabe looks like during these awful moments. And I'm gonna be real with you, I don't like it. I don't like it one bit. Just hold on. If this is all true, why didn't you go straight to the police? I went, but they didn't listen. But I told them it sounded like absolute nonsense. Besides, they've killed Mayuri too. I don't know whether it was an accident or if Rounders had infiltrated the police force. Still, no matter what I do, Mayuri ends up dead. There's no one I can depend on, no one I can talk to. All I can do is leap back over and over again. I couldn't save her. Okabe screamed so loud I thought he might cough up blood. Mayuri's death, repeated over and over. So this is taking place... So this is just taking place after Okabe has already done this over and over and over and over and over again. Leaping through time over and over again. Hellish circle of time. An endless circle of tragedy. No matter how many times he tries to save her, Mayuri inevitably dies. By someone's hand. Through some turn of events. By sheer coincidence. Between 7 p.m. and 8 p.m. To be more precise, apparently there was one instance in which Mayuri's death occurred later than all the others. In that instance, apparently he was shown a picture of Mayuri transformed into a jelly man around 8 p.m. Do not remind me of that! Stop, please! The pain! I nervously checked the clock. 8 p.m. had already come and gone. If what Okabe is saying is true, then Mayuri is already...
Okabe raises his voice. It seems he noticed that I was looking at the clock, which in turn drew his eyes towards it. And then he realized that it was already past 8 p.m. Oh no. Before I'm fully aware of what I've done, Okabe's mouth and eyes open wide. In despair.
First of all, I can't scream because they're people now, so I don't want to risk waking them up, sorry, but even just hearing Okabe screams hurts.
Never before had I heard such abject sorrow. And I doubt that I will again as long as I live. And from his shock, Okabe burst into madness. As he tore at his head and wildly swung his arms around, the butler slowly and gently approached him. And Okabe collapsed with a slight groan. He lost consciousness.
Did the butler just...
Do forgive me. I fear that if I did not intervene, Okabe-sama would have dealt himself serious emotional or physical damage.
Gonna be real with you, I honestly think that was the right move. It sounds like he would have genuinely just torn his hair out, torn his skin off, torn an eye out. So I'm gonna be real with you, Butler. That was probably the best decision somehow.
No, thank you, Kuroki. I think Kyoma should rest for now, because... This is too much.
Kara-san's eyes also flooded with tears. Admittedly, I hadn't fully accepted everything that Okabe had said as truth. But looking at him now, I had no choice. I want to believe him. But if I do... At any rate, we can't just stand around. We need to do something. CERN, the Committee of 300, Rounders. We are living in a nightmare straight out of one of Okabe's Chunibyo delusions. But this is reality, as the despair in front of us can attest to.
But what can we do? I can hardly take all this in.
We have to think.
There is something interesting I want to mention about this specific divergence, though. There is a very key difference here with this divergence being Daru. Now, in the main game, nothing really per se happened to Daru. Now, he was obviously scared, and there probably were plenty of times when he would get kidnapped in the other timelines. However, we never actually got to see that happen because we would always time leap before either knowing or it happened off screen or, you know. But there was heavy implications that there are probably good chance that in some realities that Okabe kept going back through, there's a chance that Daru probably could have gotten kidnapped. However, we never actually saw the result of this. And this is what it is. Daru's gone. That never happened before. We never got to see what it was like when he got kidnapped.
Hashina and Mayuri's faces emerged in the back of my mind.
Now, Daru and Mayuri... Daru should be alive, though. Mayuri... I'm gonna be real with you. Mayuri's dead. Let's just be real. She is 100% dead right now. But Daru doesn't die. Daru, at the very least, he lives on until many years later because he has to make the time machine. So the question is, what's going to happen to him in this timeline if he's kidnapped? Is he somehow going to manage to escape? Is he going to be forced to work with CERN for a bit before being tossed out and left alive? Like, what's going to happen here?
In front of my eyes is Okabe, his pain evident even as he slept. There's no way I can ignore this. Okabe didn't just ignore my problems with my papa after all.
May I have a moment, young mistress?
What is it, Kuroki? Have you come up with something?
As we struggle to make sense of the absurd and tragic situation before us, the butler, apparently named Kuroki-san, speaks.
Of sorts. While the intricacies of our current situation continue to elude me, may I suggest consoling your father for now?
Right. He's right. Because of how things played out, all the D-mails at the moment are real. All the D-mails that have been sent out from before Chapter 6 are true at the moment. So that includes, from the first game, those main D-mails include, obviously, Kurisu's alive. Then there's the one that makes it so that Okabe wins, like, what, 3rd place or 4th place? I think it was 4th place in the lottery. There's the one that for Moeka to switch phones, but really it wasn't about switching phones. It was about proving the existence of the time machine so that CERN would know to attack. There was the one to Lukaku's mother to change his gender to female. And there's the one to Ferris to make sure her father lives. And there's the one to Suzuha in order to make sure she doesn't leave early. All of those D-mails are still in effect in this timeline, I'm pretty sure.
Papa.
Ferris-san's father. If he's someone we should consult at a time like this, could he be a cop? But Okabe said that the police were also under CERN's control. Then what kind of man is he? Regardless, I'm not thrilled about the idea of relying on an adult. One could say that's because I've accomplished everything in my life on my own. But at this point, our options were limited. And my experience as a working member of an American research institute does not change the fact that I'm not even old enough to drink. No amount of effort can make up for the lack of social experience, and I certainly haven't learned how to deal with things like this. Outside of contacting law enforcement, I have no idea what to do. And given that we can't trust the police, that puts us all the way back at square one. Normally, I would have called bullshit on Okabe's claim that they'd infiltrate the police, but the desperation in his eyes convinced me otherwise. Besides, if the terror threat that shut down the public transportation was CERN's doing, we don't have much time to think. I saw Ferris hesitate for a moment, but in an instant, she sealed her expression in a show of determination.
I don't think it's a good idea to stay here any longer. Let's go to my place.
We're going to your house. Her words catch me off guard. The time leap machine is a prototype that is only confirmed to work in this lab. If we leave, it's going to be a lot harder to keep it safe. That said, if we accept Okabe's claims, it's kind of odd that the time leap machine hasn't already been taken. Again, this goes back to something I remember actually saying in the first game during this whole situation, which is, I think the time leap machine, by the same logic that Mayuri is guaranteed to die, I think by that same logic, the time leap machine will always be accessible to Okabe. Going by that same logic. The reasoning behind the change, behind why the time leap machine is not taken or destroyed is changed per reality, but the result is all the same, which is that the time leap machine is accessible. Just like how for Mayuri, the reasons why she dies or how she dies might change from timeline to timeline, but it doesn't change the fact that she dies. It's the same kind of... It's kind of the only silver lining in the situation, really. Sure, she's guaranteed to die, but we're also guaranteed to have a way of going back. Then, Kuroki responds to my question for Ferris.
Makise-sama, the young mistress is correct. This place may be attacked again. I believe the best option is to change location. Please don't worry. Once we depart, I will arrange for someone to guard this place.
Ferris nods at Kuroki's words, her eyes beaming with confidence. The two of them seem to have the situation under control, insofar as it could be controlled. Who on earth are these people? It feels as though they're backed by a powerful organization, which struck me as rather suspicious. But I didn't have anyone else I could count on. Got it. Above all else, we can't afford to leave Okabe in a dangerous place like this in his condition. One look at the unconscious, agonized Okabe reaffirmed that belief. We readied ourselves to change location, praying Mayuri and Hashia's safety all the while. Akihabara Times Tower. It's the tallest condominium complex in Akihabara, complete with a view of Mount Fuji and Tokyo Tower from its top floors. In the top floor of this Akihabara Station adjacent complex was Fairsan's home. I must admit, a high-end condo with its own concierge service is certainly a much safer location than the lab's Ohiyama building. In fact, this might have been the safest place for Okabe given everything that was going on. On our way, Fairsan reached out to her father to make sure he was home. She told him to make certain arrangements and that she would fill him in on the details later.
Rumio!
Papa!
Rumio, is that her real name? Fairsan's father gave his daughter a big hug as he welcomed her home. Seeing a display of affection like this, one especially rare in Japan, fills my chest with a subtle, hard-to-describe emotion. I should be familiar with this. I know what the emotion's supposed to be, of course. But now's not the time to worry about it. I assist Kuroki in laying Okabe down in the bedroom. Kuroki tells me that he plans to call the family doctor later to give Okabe some sedatives. I sigh in relief. Then I return to the living room to formally introduce myself to Fairsan's father. The man, having just finished hugging his daughter, smiled gently as he noticed me and enthusiastically offered his hand.
You must be Rumio's friend. I'm her father, Akiya Yukitaka. Nice to meet you.
I shake his hand without hesitation. I've lived in America so long that it's almost uncomfortable meeting someone without a handshake. I'm Makise Karisu.
Makise Karisu-san?
Yes, that's right. Still holding my hand, Yukitaka Oji-sama tilts his head and looks at me. It seems as though he was studying my face. Don't tell me he's one of those perverted old men. Just as I was about to ask Fairsan for help, Yukitaka Oji-sama mentioned a name I didn't expect to hear.
Is your father Makise Shoichi by any chance?
How do you know that?
What? How do you know my father's name?
I knew it, so you're Karisu-chan. That's a coincidence. You've grown up into a fine young woman.
Don't tell me you have some sort of connection to Nakabachi.
Papa, how do you know Mr. Makise?
Shuichi and I are college buddies.
No way. Hang on. No. No. Hang on. Do I still have that specific piece of dialogue? There was a specific line that was mentioned that did confuse me because I don't think we'd ever heard it before. I don't think it's here anymore. I think it's just barely got deleted, but something that I found interesting that I don't actually remember hearing in any of the original game was that Nakabachi apparently had a friend that abandoned him because of his whole time machine research. Is Yukitaka that buddy? No way.
At one point, I even funded his research. Was the sponsor, and Shuichi was the genius researcher. Our joint mentor, a professor of ours, advisor, and supported us.
You funded... I feel like I've heard this story before. It was the reason my family had to move to Aomori. At the time, we were living in Tokyo, and Papa was an independent researcher. But the reason we had to move to Aomori, where my father still lives, is because the funding he relied on was cut off. So this man... It's you!
We kept our little group up for a while after we graduated. He called it the Transcendence of the Theory of Relativity Committee.
That's the first I've heard of that. What a name.
In fact, you often visit our home with your father, Kurisu-chan. Back then, we lived in Ochanomizu. We had to sell the place since my company was going bankrupt, but we actually had a yard. You and Rumio used to play together out there.
Really? Huh. What? What? Even these two are surprised.
Does that mean Makise and I are childhood friends?
Apparently so. Also, I think I'm... Hang on. There we go. I think my charging cord for my iPad was underneath my underneath the wheel for my chair. That's pleasant thought. It's probably under there for like a good hour. Nice.
Ferris and I stared at each other in disbelief. So much has happened today that I feel like my nerves are about to short out.
There is too much going on.
I can't believe you didn't mention it, Kuroki. Didn't you realize who it was? I did recognize her, but I decided it would be more prudent to prioritize Okabe-sama's safety over discussing old memories. Reasonable, and thank you, Kuroki, for looking after my daughter's friend. Now, to the matter at hand.
Right.
Yeah, the big problem...
Yeah, right now my papa's history and my unknown connection to Ferris are irrelevant. Right now we need to keep our focus on Okabe. I'm sorry for asking you for your help out of the blue.
Not at all. In fact, it's good that you did.
Huh?
Wait, if you were... You would know actually about... You would actually know about time machine stuff if you were with Nakabashi. So actually, technically speaking, yeah, you would be a good person to talk to this.
His tone was cunning and sharp, as if he had transformed from the easygoing, nostalgic man who stood before me from a moment ago. He was no longer a father, but a shrewd businessman. His gaze is sharp as a knife. His eyes are like a hawk's, taking in everything around him.
When Rumio called me, I could hardly believe what I was hearing, so I called a buddy of mine and... well...
A buddy of yours?
Yeah, they manage street vendors at festivals around Akihabara, like Konda Festival at the Konda Myojin Shrine, for example.
People who sell goods or perform in the streets as a service. There are also groups who serve as a sort of mutual support society in some regions, helping to solve a minor crisis. A large festival held every 2 years, one of the 3 great festivals along with the Kyoto's Gion Festival and Osaka's Tenjin Festival.
What they had to say took me by surprise. It was just as Rumio had said, the Rounders have been interfering with both the railway company and the police department. They even tried to interfere with my friend.
So even you know all about this. Wow. The entirety of the first game, we had zero idea of this.
My breath caught in my throat at what must have been the thousandth shock I'd received today.
I gotta say, I feel bad. I just feel especially bad for not just Okabe, but for freaking but for both Ferris and Makise, because their entire lives have just shattered in like what feels like the span of like an hour or two.
It's not that I didn't believe Okabe, but to know for certain that CERN is actually able to influence organizations like the police leaves me shaking.
I looked into it while you were on the way here, and it sounds like they're blocking off the entire Akihabara neighborhood and limiting entry. It may not look that way at a glance, but they've essentially set up police security checkpoints. I imagine they planned on capturing Kurisu-chan and Okabe-kun as soon as they try to get out.
Capturing us? I shuddered. We're being targeted by a powerful organization. Given that Okabe, Hashida, and I were the driving force behind the time machine, we must be their main focus. Thinking on it now makes me even more worried for Mayuri and Hashida's safety.
What in God's name have you managed to get yourselves caught up in? I want you to tell me every detail. We need to get to the bottom of exactly what's going on in Akihabara right now.
There's a subtle anger in Yukitaka Oji-sama's voice.
To be fair, I can't blame him. It's like the dude's just suddenly having having a normal day, and all of a sudden
there's like an evil society that's trying to kill children or kidnap them because they've found the power of time travel. I feel just a little angry too, I'd imagine. Just a little.
It wasn't directed towards us. His anger was directed toward the intruder stomping through the place he lives. A place that he's built up and nurtured over the years. An anger born from the desire to protect the town he loves, like a mother bird defending her nest.
I see.
In the end, it took the three of us, Ferris, Kuroki, and me, over an hour to tell Yukitaka Oji-sama everything that was going on. Well, to the extent that we were capable, at least. The only one of us to time leap, witnessed Mayuri's numerous deaths, and know anything about CERN or Rounders or the Committee of 300 is Okabe. Under normal circumstances, his testimony would be invaluable for clarifying certain details and verifying what he had to say. But given his unconscious and extreme mental fatigue, that's simply not an option. It's not surprising. The shock and despair he's gone through would be unbearable even for someone trained to cope with mental trauma. I'm only standing right now because I'm forcing myself to think rationally. Which is why we end up telling Yukitaka Oji-sama Okabe's story on our own. It was a long explanation fraught with false starts, speculation, and clarifications, but we finally finished.
What the hell have you done?
That said, Yukitaka Oji-sama's initial response didn't seem positive. He tilts his head down, frowns, and seems to lose himself in thought. He must not be able to believe it. No surprise there. It didn't come from Okabe after all. No, it's hard to believe it even coming from Okabe himself. I wouldn't have believed him myself if he weren't so desperate. I would have written it off as yet another Chunibyo fantasy. Otsu.
What? This is a new one. Short for Otsukare-sama, which means a good work or way to go in Japanese net slang. I would have written it off as yet another Chunibyo fantasy. Good job. Nice work.
Kurisu-chan.
Yukitaka Oji-sama unexpectedly breaks the silence. Yes?
I told you earlier that your father and I had been friends since college and that I funded his research, correct?
Correct. Though I have to admit, I'm still having trouble comprehending that. It was when Yukitaka Oji-sama's funding ceased that Papa's lifeline as a researcher was cut off. I remember him telling me that when I was little. That was just Papa's perspective. Yukitaka Oji-sama must have had his reasons. That's all in the past anyway. I don't hold any grudge against Yukitaka Oji-sama. Although Papa did take Mama and me back to his home in Aomori so he could devote himself to his research without worrying about money. Maybe that was a sign that he'd already lost hope. Of course, I know that Yukitaka Oji-sama had his reasons. Papa told me that he might have pulled his funding because his company was facing financial issues. That's why I don't intend to hold him responsible for what happened.
Then, do you know what the transcendence of the theory of relativity committee was actually researching?
There's something strange in his voice. As if sorrow, anger, and nostalgia were all blended into one. And I find myself stunned at his question. I've never been told the finer details of Papa's research with Yukitaka Oji-sama. But Papa only ever researched one thing. I can make a pretty confident guess. Yes, I know. Once again, the shadow of my father looms over me. And yet...
The three of us, Shuichi, our mentor professor, and I, held regular secret meetings in order to create something.
For Papa and Yukitaka Oji-sama, these memories are treasures from their early adulthood.
Yes, we were trying to create the very thing that you created. A time machine.
Yep. So they were doing the same thing as we were.
Oh, really? That's so childish.
Can't you at least call it romantic?
Aww. Yukitaka Oji-sama told us briefly about the transcendence of the theory of relativity committee. Papa and Yukitaka Oji-sama's mentor, the professor, was the first to research time machines. It all began when Papa snuck a look at his notes. The dream of the time machine inspired Papa and Yukitaka Oji-sama into forming a group with the professor they once avoided. That group became what Papa dubbed the Transcendence of the Theory of Relativity Committee. The professor had all the ideas and inspiration, but didn't have the scientific and technological means to make them a reality. Papa handled the actual R&D. In other words, the professor had the ideas, Yukitaka Oji-sama the funding, and Papa the research and engineering. That was how the committee functioned. In that way, it was a lot like our future gadget laboratory, where our crew centers their work around Okabe. I was about to say, this kind of feels like some sort of opposite to the future gadget laboratory. Okabe has the ideas, I construct the theories, and Ashida conducts the actual experiments. This means Papa handled both my and Hashida's roles. The parallels are obvious. Yukitaka Oji-sama must have realized this when he heard about the time leap machine, which would explain the complicated emotions in his voice. The next generation succeeded where his failed. Did his odd tone stem from pride? Or from jealousy? Of course, there's no way for me to know for sure, and I may very well be oversimplifying things. He's clearly dealing with some complicated personal feelings.
I understand certain aspects of your story because we were trying to make the same thing.
No, that's not quite right. It's not that I understand per se. This may be the first time I've heard Yukitaka Oji-sama doubt his own words. What do you mean?
Perhaps I have some understanding of CERN and the Committee of 300, from two perspectives.
This time it was my turn to frown upon hearing Yukitaka Oji-sama's words.
Two perspectives? Papa, what do you mean?
For the first, or perhaps I should say our professor was acquainted with them.
Really?
He conducted his time machine research in near absolute secrecy. He kept external cooperation to a minimum to avoid leaks. Shuichi fully agreed with the policy, so I was the outlier. There were times when I needed support for funding, so things could occasionally get difficult. Thinking back on it now, I believe the professor must have known CERN's true nature.
In other words, he had remarkable foresight. But then there are cases like Okabe. It's difficult to tell what the truth actually is. Then what's the second perspective?
It has to do with the Committee of 300, but once again, I can't claim this knowledge as my own.
Again, I couldn't help but be puzzled by Yukitaka Oji-sama's words. Seeing the questions written on my face, Yukitaka Oji-sama spoke with a gentle smile.
Kurisu-chan, from your perspective, doesn't it seem like secret societies exist primarily within the realm of fiction?
Huh? I wasn't able to come up with a response to the bizarre inquiry, though it seems he expected my reaction.
Truth be told, secret societies are practically a dime a dozen, at least in the eyes of industrialists like myself.
I don't even know what I'm up against. Faced with the reality of his statement, my brain retreated to one of my regular at-channel references. Sensing my inability to process what I was hearing in my blank expression, Yukitaka Oji-sama explains himself more simply. Essentially, it boils down to this. Long ago, before the Industrial Revolution, the publication and distribution of information was far more costly than it is now. Additionally, with society's rapid advancements and the associated increase in business opportunities, merchants realized that traditional business methods were fast becoming obsolete. Perhaps the greatest change was the unprecedented demand for banks just before the start of the Age of Exploration. This demand transformed the economy entirely. That marked the end of the old way of doing business. Small range, small scope, small margin businesses were on the way out. Faced with a changing world, the wealthy, in order to protect their profits, searched for ways to construct unions to mutually benefit one another. But these weren't like national unions. These organizations were closed off to the majority of society. Some of them kept their very existence a secret in order to protect their members and activities. These organizations later became known as secret societies. Naturally, there are non-economic secret societies too. For example, Italy's famous Sicilian Mafia was originally a rebel organization that fought against oppression from the mainland. Moreover, the Knights Templar, a centerpiece of numerous conspiracy theories, is not an actual secret society. The belief that the Templars operate in secret to this day is largely due to France declaring members of their order heretics. Outside of France, however, they operated in plain sight. Most notably in Portugal, where the king became a member of the Knights Templar, uniting the country and the organization as one. In other words, present-day Portugal is the Knights Templar. One can hardly call Portugal a secret society. Yeah, fair enough. The Soviet Union, which collapsed before I was born, was originally a secret society. A society that sparked a revolution and turned itself into a nation.
While you may not be aware of them, many secret societies exist today, and they're influencing our world. But that's not anything particularly special. Quite the contrary, in fact. I'm not sure that you're aware, but your lab is, in a way, a secret society too. That's something you need to understand.
So, we're competition in a way? To be honest, his words shook me. I'd always thought secret societies were nothing but delusional fantasies thought up by conspiracy theorists in Chunibyo. But apparently there were many secret societies influencing the governments of developed countries simply by voting. Of course, there are still many profit-seeking secret societies whose ambition don't extend beyond wealth.
The Committee of 300 is the same. I don't know where they rank globally, but they are certainly significant. In terms of business, it would not be wise to pick a fight with them. We don't know their motives, their scale, or their methods. Not knowing how they think is especially damaging. If I could find a way to barter some kind of mutually beneficial agreement, I might be able to reason with them, but it's impossible without knowing what they want.
Papa.
Fair-san's question is ripe with concern. In response, the corners of Yukitaka Ojisama's lips curl up.
However, we cannot allow these people to do whatever they want in our Akihabara. They will pay for this.
At that point, I finally understood. Yukitaka Ojisama was angry. Angry?
Oh, please excuse me.
As he answers the phone that rang abruptly, Yukitaka Ojisama dons a slight smile. Then he addresses us as he hangs up.
It seems that we have a lead. We captured one of the rounders that you mentioned.
Huh? Captured? Yukitaka? Okabe had said the rounders killed Mayuri. And we captured one of these relentless murderers. What kind of man is Yukitaka Ojisama? It feels like we're stepping outside of reality. I was about to say, what? How? Maybe all of this is a dream. No, I can't think like that. I need to stay rooted in real life. And at this point, I don't care if it felt like I was living in a manga. To me, Yukitaka Ojisama's words seemed like the light at the end of the tunnel. According to Yukitaka Ojisama, this is what happened. While his manager buddy was in the bars thinking of a plan, a man bound in ropes suddenly appeared lying on the ground out front. This man showed signs of severe physical trauma and was trembling in fear. As they interrogated him, he started to talk openly about being a rounder. The one who brought the man to the bar was a woman with braided hair. According to the barkeeper, she took off on a bicycle without so much as a word uttered after she dropped her captive off out front. Would that be Moeka? The identity of this woman is unknown. Regardless, this provided us with new information about the rounders. Given that the woman offered him up like a present, it was possible that it may be a trap. However, still, the man revealed that the rounders are divided into independent groups, completely unaware of the other rounders' operations. The captured rounder also told us that someone named FB is in charge. FB doesn't give the rounders orders directly, instead choosing to operate through their underlings. Their objective originally was to secure an old PC called the IBM 5100. IBM's first portable computer released in 1975. A single unit is comprised of both a keyboard and a monitor. Though it's technically portable, it weighs around 25 kilograms. There's a special computer language that can only be used on the 5100, which is not at all mentioned in its manual. This fact came to light through John Titor in the 2000s and was subsequently confirmed by IBM developers themselves. As of yesterday, the man told us a special rounder task force from France had entered Japan. Their objective was to raid the Future Gadget Laboratory, securing the Time Leap machine and its developers. As for the captured rounder, his division was told to spread across Akihabara to prevent said developers, namely we lab members, from leaving the city. He also confirmed our fears. Mayuri and Hashida had been captured by the rounders and taken away. though the man doesn't know exactly where.
That time machine you built, the time leap machine, was supposed to be secured by the special task force. Fortunately, I have a friend at the security company in the guarding the Ohiyama building. I imagine the Rounders took notice.
Which means coming to Ferris-san's house was the right choice. Staying at the lab could have led to a confrontation with the Rounders coming to take the time leak machine. I started thinking about how that encounter would have ended.
But where have they taken Mayushi and Darunyan?
Eris is driven to tears by her father's story. It doesn't seem like she can just stand by knowing that her friends are in danger. But it seemed like she had no idea what to do.
I mean, what can she do?
If we can capture this rounder named FB, I think it out loud, knowing full well how difficult that would be. We don't have anywhere close to the amount of information we need. We don't even know if this FB is in Japan or not.
Well, about that, I know who it is.
If only Hashida were here. I know I'm asking for the impossible, but I'm sure that Hashida's excellent hacking would be able to find us a loophole. Hacking isn't solely about remotely accessing a device or source of information at a computer, or the computer network. It's about seeing through the opponent's security or passwords and outwitting someone else trying to find a route in. In that sense, Hashida might have been able to come up with a unique approach for the mess of a situation we're in, one that would defy the Rounder's predictions. But he isn't here. It's ironic that we need Hashida's skills in order to find Hashida himself. His contributions to the time leap machine were immense. He was a necessary component of our lab, just in a different way than Okabe. I try to brainstorm, but I can't come up with any good ideas. Yukitaka Oji-sama picks up the phone once more.
It appears that the situation may be out of our hands.
In a way, he sounded a little defeated, but his expression was not that of someone who had given up.
What should we do?
I'm glad you asked, Fumio. Remember this, if you cannot solve a problem on your own, the best thing to do is to seek help from someone you trust. This is a rule of thumb in the business world. Just look at how I asked the manager for help. Humans are incomplete beings on their own. That said, they are surrounded by people, society, and history. The experiences they accumulate, the people around them, and the environment into which they are born all contribute to who that person is. I exist as I am now because of the professor's guidance, because of Shuichi, because of Rumio, because of the town of Akihabara.
Yukitaka Oji-sama continues to say that this is the same for CERN and the Committee of 300. No matter how powerful of an army of an entity each may be, they are not completely disconnected from the rest of the world. At least some of their number must have family members. They must have connections to their country, their land, or other human beings. Even America, for all its military might, cannot act unrestricted within the modern international society. Even the numerous dictatorships that exist throughout history have connections. However cruel a tyrant may have been, they were not always able to exert their will 100% of the time. And this is where their weaknesses lie. If the Committee of 300 is some kind of European organization, then that must mean that there are also Indian and Middle Eastern secret societies. Japan, China, and Russia have also have their organizations and industries that can impact the international community. If those organizations can be led to mobilize in some way, even if we can't make CERN or the Committee of 300 abandon or change their plans, we might be able to restrict them into making adjustments.
So basically, we're using secret societies to tackle secret societies.
Needless to say, this may not turn out in our favor. Still, it's better than doing nothing.
With that, Yukitaka Oji-sama started making calls.
What kind? At this rate, we're about to have a new war start, like one between secret societies.
He mostly conducted his business in English, but occasionally I would use languages I couldn't understand.
Your mistress, Mochite-sama.
Kara-san and I were just sitting and watching Yukitaka Oji-sama place his phone calls in a daze, but Kuroki-san's words snapped us out of our reverie.
If I may, I would suggest saving your energy. For now, please get some rest.
But I can understand Kuroki-san's perspective. If Yukitaka Ojisama intends to rely on his connections to take action, there really isn't much the two of us can do. However, given the situation at hand, I just didn't feel like resting.
Kunyan is... Kunyan. Hiroki's right. You should rest a bit.
Farah says she pulls my arm.
But... You know how pale you look right now, Kunyan? You look like Kyoma. You have to rest.
Huh? Pale? I didn't realize it myself, but I must look pretty tired for Farah-san to bring it up. Now that she mentioned it, I guess I did stay up all night. I didn't even have dinner. To top it off, there's the summer heat to deal with. Coupled with the dire situation, that's a recipe for fatigue.
We can't help Kyoma, Mayushi, and Darnyan if we lose you. You need to stay healthy for Kyoma's sake.
Hearing out loud, I finally realized how irrational I'm being. Farah-san is absolutely right. I can't do anything for Okabe or Mayuri if I've collapsed. Reluctance, uncertainty, and hesitancy fill my heart. But I am a researcher who values reason above all else. So I should act accordingly. Understood, Ferris. Kuroki-san, thank you both. I think I will take a rest.
A bedroom will be prepared for you next to Okabe-san's. Allow me to escort you.
I'll let you know if anything happens, Kunyan.
Please. After I thank her, I follow Kuroki-san to my bedroom and... Kunyan? Well, that's a strange new nickname. I was gonna say, like, a new nickname. I couldn't sleep. Even though my body and soul are completely exhausted, my mind is still wide awake. And I can't fall asleep no matter what I do. Tossing and turning in bed, I try all sorts of relaxation and breathing techniques to guide myself to sleep. Nothing works. Mayuri, Hashida, Okabe. Think still only invited unpleasant thoughts. My imagination runs wild with the worst case scenarios, each one making my body stiffen. I keep trying to shake the thoughts out of my head. I sigh helplessly. All I want to do is help my friends, but I don't have the ability to actually do that. For now, I need to place my hope in Yukitaka Ojisama and make sure I'm rested up for when I have some leads to follow. And I understand that. I should understand at least, but it doesn't help. Not at all. I'm face to face with my own helplessness, my lack of experience.
If you cannot solve a problem on your own, the best thing to do is seek help from someone you trust. This is a rule of thumb in the business world.
Yukitaka Ojisama's words from earlier echo in my head. These words were meant to explain our next steps to us, but also to give us a fair warning. There's always the possibility that we can screw up and make things more complicated. If our impatience got the best of us and we stormed out just to be captured by lingering rounders, all of Yukitaka Ojisama's planning would go down the drain. There's really nothing we can do. Our only option is to rely on Yukitaka Ojisama, and the best way to help him is to stay put. This is how it should be. But in the end, I can't do anything. I'm embarrassed by my own immaturity. I'm wishing for power I haven't earned like a child. People should strive to achieve whatever they can within the range of their abilities and experiences. By running society in this way, each individual would be able to find their niche. If everybody had equal, limitless power, human individuality would be meaningless. I lived in America, where different cultures are accepted and celebrated. I know how dull a world without difference would be. At the same time, it's also true that I haven't matured enough to simply accept my place in a rigid society. My professor and upperclassmen would probably say that my immaturity is part of my personality, and that there are things that only immature people can do. As I vocalized my thoughts, I realized something. Professors and upperclassmen. Once again, Yukitaka Ojisama's words echo in my mind.
Humans are incomplete beings on their own, but they are surrounded by people, society, and history. The experiences they accumulate, the people around them, and the environments into which they are all born contribute to who that person is. I exist as I am now because of the professor's guidance, because of Shuichi, because of Rumio, because of the city of Akihabara.
I sit bolt upright in the bed. Yeah, that's it. Just as Yukitaka Oji-sama has his connections, I have my own. While I may have come from a different background and an age group from Yukitaka Oji-sama, I am not alone. Papa and Mama, Ferris-san, Yukitaka Oji-sama, Kuroki-san, my professors and upperclassmen at Victor Condria, Okabe, Hashida, Mayuri. There are many people around me, and if Yukitaka Oji-sama can reach out to people for help, I can too. It's just after 11 p.m. now, meaning it's morning in America. I quickly made a list of people I could ask for help given the time of day. I could only come up with 1 or 2 people though. But then I realized something. Today is the professor's lecture meeting. My timing couldn't be worse. One of my former teachers at Victor Condria's Neuroscience Institute is presenting his research results to professors from other universities today. That alone is going to make him extremely unlikely to be answering phone calls or checking emails. What's worse, I couldn't even get a hold of my upperclassmen who would normally pick up in no time. I have no other personal contacts at Victor Condria. What the hell? Why now of all times? And then I remembered something that Okabe said. It's as if Mayuri's death is the will of the world. Will of the world. Time paradoxes. Is it possible that I'm also under the influence of the so-called will of the world? Okabe said that even if the Rounders did not directly attack, Mayuri will, for some reason or another, die. No matter how many times he repeated the day, no matter how many things he tried, it was imminent. The will of the world. Natural providence. Okabe told me he felt something that could only be described as fate. Is this the same force that keeps me from reaching anyone for help? No matter how hard I try? Is the will of the world, as Okabe called it, hindering my actions? No, it can't be. I refuse to accept the idea that we live in a predetermined world. The idea that our fates are set is too absurd to believe. Meaning that something is behind this phenomenon. And if so, we can find out what it is and resolve it to escape this hellish situation. The problem is, how can we identify the cause? And when we do, how can we remedy it? Is it even possible for me to solve this on my own? I tightly gripped the cell phone that I used to place my calls. Try as I might, I couldn't come up with a good idea. No sooner had I caught a glimpse of hope than it faded away. If this were mere research, I could simply walk away, knowing that discovery is a slow process. But not this time. What can I do? I half open my cell phone absentmindedly and see a certain word in the contacts list. Papa. Nakabashi? I tried contacting him a few days ago, but he refused to talk to me. Right now, I need anyone's help. And if that person is Papa, then all the better. I entered his phone number and pressed call. No answer. Of course, nobody would pick up at this hour. Or it might be because it's me. Papa does not like me. No, he may as well hate me. There's no way he would answer the phone for the likes of me. I close my cell phone and unconsciously pull myself upright. I then proceed to exit the guest bedroom and gently open the door of the room next door. This room is also as dark as the one previous. But from the sound of his breath alone, I knew who was in here. Okabe. Okabe. I'm sorry. What should I do? Okabe is so worn out. He suffered so much for so long. I want to save him, but I don't know how. I don't know what to do for the person I love. I'm completely at loss. Some genius I turned out to be. I'm confident I've been working my hardest the whole time. I've done everything I can and have even produced results. But at this moment, none of that has any meaning. I can't make Papa happy. I can't save my friends. I'm useless to the one I love. I gently touch Okabe's cheek. It feels like he's lost weight somehow. He might have burned an extreme amount of calories working his brain at such high capacity after receiving his future memories. Or maybe it's because of after dashing out of the lab, he ran all around Akihabara in desperation. Either way, it's a painful sight. I'm sorry. I'm so powerless. There's nothing I can do. I notice tears falling from my eyes. They land on my hand and drip down, wetting my fingertips onto Okabe's cheek. No. I can't cry. I'm not... Okabe's the one suffering here. I can't cry here. That's right. The one who is in most pain, who has suffered the most heartbreak, is the one who has witnessed Mayuri's death over and over again. Okabe. That means... An image emerges from the back of my mind. The time leap machine. The time machine built under Okabe's direction. Right now, I can't think of a way to save Hashida or Mayuri. What if I change the past? What if I use the time leap machine to get us out of this situation? No. I do not fully understand what rules and logic are involved with traveling through time and changing the past. So far, through our D-mail experiments, we've learned that modifying past events can significantly change the world. However, most of us cannot perceive these changes. All this information comes from Okabe, the only person with this reading Steiner ability. If he were lying about this, or simply deluded, this hypothesis would collapse immediately. That said, the reason we've come this far is because I believe in his abilities and claims. They're the basis of the time leap machine, after all. Even then, changes in time are very subjective and vague, and only Okabe is capable of observing them. In other words, even if I were to change the past, only Okabe would notice. If I changed the past, my memories would be erased the moment the world changed. And if they were, if Mayuri's life were put in danger again, I would not have the knowledge to keep her from dying. Given that she's already died over and over, it seems especially risky. The bottom line is, under the current circumstances, changing the past doesn't make sense without Okabe's involvement. Without the reading Steiner, changing the past is essentially meaningless. Only Okabe can do this, which would mean the burden is entirely on him. It would be too much for Okabe to take. I have to think of an alternative. After muttering that to myself, I realized that the frustration I'd been feeling just a minute ago had been somewhat relieved. I still feel a little impatient, but it isn't clouding my thoughts anymore. Maybe seeing your face helped, Okabe. I try to joke, but there's a ring of truth to my statement. Suddenly, exhaustion and sleepiness come crushing down on me. I should go back to my room. I'll get some sleep, then come up with an idea to fix all of this. I quietly move away from Okabe, so as to not wake him up, then return to my own bedroom next door. The next morning, after waking from a good night's sleep, I lightly freshen up my appearance and head to the living room. There I see the exhausted Yukitaka Oji-sama, who looks to have stayed up all night making phone calls, and Kuroki-san, who has stood by his side in support. The news on the big screen TV, perhaps to provide them with the alternate... The news is on big screen TV, perhaps to provide them with alternate sources of information.
Kurisu-chan. Good morning.
Good morning. How are things?
Not as well as I'd like.
It seems like Yukitaka Oji-sama has infiltrated the Rounders organization through negotiation and compromise. He has been able to learn the location of several lower-level members, as well as a few agents that pass orders along to them. In some cases, he's even been able to capture them, but he has yet to obtain any information regarding FB or Mayuri or Hashida's whereabouts.
If their confidentiality and haste are any indication, it seems that this particular mission is of high importance to them.
In front of Yukitaka Oji-sama lay several documents and maps with numerous red markings on them. A quick look revealed that these were not only maps of Japan, but of the Far East, Southeast Asia, America, and Europe. There were large-scale maps, as well as more detailed ones. Several points had been marked as predicted locations, some of which, it seemed, had already been investigated.
Normally, after being pushed this far, we would see the opponent either strike back or try to negotiate.
According to Yukitaka Ojisama, the fact that they haven't done anything either indicates how high priority hadn't done it, and either indicates how high priority their mission is. Sometimes, when prioritizing a single objective, an organization will consider all related losses necessary to its success. Yukitaka Ojisama said that the Rounders' response, or lack thereof, to his actions was in line with the strategy. For CERN, the Rounders' governing body, and the Committee of 300 who controls them, gaining sole control of the time machine must be an uncompromisable goal. If one can control time, they can manipulate the past to redo any and all operations until their success unsure. For them, nothing is impossible. As I said before, this is the power of a god. Who in their right mind would simply hand it over to someone? If they wish to establish themselves as rulers of the world, their stance is a matter of course. The problem is, that puts the rest of the world at a major disadvantage. Unsurprisingly, Yukitaka Ojisama is no longer calm and collected. Are you okay?
I keep applying pressure, but it isn't working. Facing off against the Committee of 300 directly wouldn't be a wise decision either.
Though he said this, his expression told me that he hadn't ruled the idea out. Papa.
It's weird seeing you without the cat ears.
Ah, Rumio. Good morning.
Kara-san made her way into the living room and seemed to grasp what was going on just by looking at Yukitaka Ojisama. Sitting beside Yukitaka Ojisama, she leans toward him and embraces his arm.
I've worried you, haven't I? Don't worry, your papa's still okay.
Okay.
Kara-san looked conflicted. She's so worried about Mayuri, Hashida, and Okabe that she can hardly stand it, but she's also worried about her father working himself to the bone to save them. Perhaps Yukitaka Ojisama is the type to push himself, whether fighting for his daughter's friends or for his beloved town of Akihabara. There are certain things he can't back down from. It seems Farah-san is worried that he'll push himself beyond his limits. At the same time, maybe we can't save Mayuri and Hashida without Yukitaka Ojisama doing that. I imagine this is quite the dilemma for her.
Thank you, Rumio.
Said Yukitaka Ojisama as he caressed Farah-san's face. Then, as he reached for the phone to contact another negotiator, a piece of news appeared on the flat-screen TV.
And our next story, early this morning at the Kasai Rinkai Park near the ocean. Salaryman found a fan floating in the ocean while he was fishing.
TV shows footage of Tokyo Bay. As the footage continues, a box-shaped van is pulled out of the water by a crane. The crane slowly moves the van over towards the land and places it on a blue tarp. For some reason, this makes me incredibly uneasy.
Don't tell me it's Mayuri.
I don't like it. Are my nerves being hypersensitive? Unpleasant thoughts rush through the back of my mind.
Oh god. I just now noticed, but
Young woman dead after van plummets into sea.
if you want to know what my face looks like right now, please direct your attention to the man and whose face is... I don't even know how to explain it, but that is definitely my face right now.
There are thoughts I don't want to think of, but I can't help it.
The corpse of a teenage female was found inside a vehicle. Police are now rushing to identify the corpse.
The inorganic, emotionless voice of the newscaster resonates from the TV, and then some of the items left in the car were displayed on the screen. Fairsun stands up without word. Her eyes open wide as she witnesses something unimaginable. The throbbing sound pulses loudly in my ears. No way. No way. On the screen were a recognizable hat and a green cell phone, both of which once belonged to someone we knew very well. This can't be real. Fairsun shakes her head, like a child would. I don't want to accept this. I can't. This is something I should have been prepared for. After what Okabe told me, I should have predicted this. But neither of us would be able to accept it. There was no way we could. Thereson and I were both stunned that we couldn't take our eyes off the screen. That's why we didn't realize. Mayuri? Oh god. That he had woken up and had entered the living room. Oh. Okabe! I turned around to face the voice behind me. There was Okabe, wider than a piece of paper. Mayuri! Mayuri! I failed again! Pulling his head in his hands, he drops to his knees as if to repent. Hearing him scream as if his spirit had been torn to 1,000 pieces, I understood for the first time humanity's ability to vocalize such grief. At the same time, his lament made me accept the undisputed reality of our friend's death. Okabe's scream was evidence that Mayuri really was dead. Up to this point, I'd been deluding myself into thinking that those items they'd found in the corpse were all fake. That way, I'd be able to say that I couldn't accept Mayuri's death until I saw it with my own eyes. But I was just lying to myself, pathetically trying to obscure the truth. The opposite of what a scientist should do. That's right. I understood the moment I saw the hat and cell phone on the screen. That our precious ally, our friend, was gone from this world. That I would never see her again. I couldn't accept that. Not like this. That's why I tried to say it was fake. To separate it from reality. To fool myself. That's nothing more than shallow folly. The reality is before my eyes. The truth stands before me. I know that. I understand. I accept it. She's gone. Mayuri is gone. Why? Why can't I save her? At the same time, I can't allow myself to be lost in grief. Both because the scientist inside me still wants to maintain control of the situation at hand, and because in the presence of someone in a much deeper state of grief. Okabe! Beating his head with his fists and crying, Okabe continues to wail. I grab his hands, hoping to stop him from hitting himself, but he quickly breaks out of my grasp. Why? Why, Mayuri? I made the time machine! Punish me! Kill me instead! Why? Tell me, why does it have to be Mayuri? He screams into the void, cursing the rounders in CERN. His screams held such pain, it felt as though they could tear apart the heart of whoever heard them. But no matter how much pain his listeners felt, his pain was worse. Stop, Okabe! If this keeps up, you're gonna destroy yourself! I couldn't take it. I hate seeing the person I love reduced to this. Seeing the person I love in such pain. If there's something I can do for him, anything! Why can't I help alleviate his pain? Helplessness and despair consume my heart. These are not my own feelings. They're Okabe's. His voice alone filled me with his agony and grief. Thereson and I couldn't do anything for Okabe but embrace him. It was all we had left in us.
Do forgive me.
Kuroki-san extends his hand. Suddenly, Okabe slumps to the ground unconscious, just as he did yesterday.
Knocking him out like this isn't optimal, but I fear leaving him in this way would be worse.
Once again, I can't say I blame you. He would genuinely kill himself if he had the choice. I don't doubt that for a second. We simply hold on to Okabe in silence, shaking our heads. Kuroki-san seems apologetic, but he provided Okabe with more peace than we could. We have no right to object. This is how useless we are. Our combined experiences, my genius status. None of that means anything right now. Just as Okabe laments being unable to save Mayuri, I am unable to save Okabe. I can't even start to ameliorate his pain. If only I had Okabe's ringing Steiner ability, I could use the time leap machine to change places with him. But even that is nothing but a wish. Okabe. 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 I hold on to him, uttering his name over and over, as he'd done with Mayuri only moments before. I can sense Yukitaka Oji-sama and Kuroki-san's concerned eyes on me. This is all I can bring myself to do. My cell phone rings and snaps me out of it. Huh? You? Why are you calling? Papa?
Again.
Please, Okabe, he needs help. Okabe, Papa,
What are you?
help me, please. I can't. Okabe, I can't save the person I love. Feeling useless and awash with despair, I break down sobbing and crying the moment I hear Papa's voice. Because of the trauma, trepidation, and fear I associate with him. Because I heard the voice of the one who loved me and watched over me as a child. And Papa, taken aback by my tears, seemed like he couldn't even begin to get mad or scold me. It was only much later that I realized this. I don't remember most of our conversation, but I was probably babbling incoherently. The overwhelming stress, the years of friction between Papa and me, and the helplessness of being unable to save Okabe drove me to close the infantile regression. I let my emotions run wild, something I would normally try to avoid in front of Papa of all people. What I do remember is that I repeat Okabe's name and help over and over. Neither my dignity as a scientist nor my appearance and manners as a member of society remained intact. I was simply overflowing with raw emotion. It's a wonder I was able to communicate anything at all. But during this time, I was amazed that Papa was actually patiently listening to me. Maybe my unusual behavior convinced him that somehow something was really wrong. He may have tried to interject at one point or another, but if he did, I didn't hear it. He certainly didn't hang up on me, at least. By the time I began to come to my senses, I had been venting my emotions to Dad for more than 20 minutes. At that point, I was just sobbing. Papa, please.
You've got to be kidding me. What is this? What do you expect me to do? Help someone I don't even know?
My heart grows cold, as if he stabbed me with a sword of ice. Time seemed to stand still. I forget how to breathe for a moment, and my lungs struggle for oxygen.
May I?
Huh? As I struggled to wrap my mind around my father's response, Yukitaka Oji-sama took my phone from my hand.
It's been a while, Shuichi. Would it kill you to call your old friend every once in a while?
Still stunned, I watched Yukitaka Oji-sama talk to my papa. Between Papa's cold words and my worry over Okabe, I didn't have it in me to do anything else. Kunyan. Their son comes over to me and gives me a hug. Because I still haven't regained my cool, I hung on to her. Their son.
Just leave it to Papa for now. Kuroki's taking care of Kyoma too.
Huh? At Fair-san's words, I looked around the room and realized that Okabe had disappeared. Apparently Kuroki-san had taken him back to his room from the night before.
All this would be too much for Kyoma to take right now.
As if I'd have reverted to a child. Okabe's reaction earlier had done something to me. I could hardly bear to witness it. Something in Okabe's mind must have snapped, won out by the horrors of what he had witnessed. cope with trauma like this, people often become numb and nihilistic or mentally destroy themselves in their grief. Though in either case, the outcome is the same. They lose who they once were. Okabe was simply experiencing the latter. The weight of his grief has even deeply impacted me, and I'm only feeling his suffering by proxy. I never thought anything other than my father could make me give into my emotions like this. But what I'm going through speaks volumes about the tragedy that Okabe has experienced.
Hey, Kunyan.
Uh-huh. Ferris, seeing that I've calmed down a little, speaks to me, still holding me tight.
Yesterday, Kyoa said that he saw Mayuri die over and over. And he leapt through time over and over to prevent her death.
Uh-huh. Ferris gently caresses my head, and keeps quietly talking to me, patting my back from time to time.
So if we try to do the same, we could save Mayushi, right?
Bringing a friend back to life. If there were a way to do so, people would reach for it no matter the cost. Making a time machine, the forbidden fruit. As a scientist, I understand the weight of what she's asking me. But even so, there is only one way I could answer. We'll save her. We will save Mayuri. I'll make sure of that. Perhaps this is how Okabe felt when he witnessed Mayuri's death. My logic and ethics are pushed aside by the dangerous allure of the time machine. Even if I have to risk everything, if there is a way to save Mayuri, I will find it. No matter how grave a sin it may be, no matter how it defies the laws of nature, if there is a means to an end, humanity will take advantage. Even if I had to give up on my principles, if I can save Mayuri, to hell with them. If I can spare Okabe his pain, then to hell with them. I'll bear the weight of my sins. I'll accept any punishment, an acceptable price, to give her her life back. Knowing full well that this defies the natural order.
Kurisu-chan.
Yukitaka Oji-sama addresses me, still with the cell phone in hand. He's still on the phone.
You should talk to Shuichi. I got him to agree to help you.
Huh? Lies. Papa, help, what does that even mean? Seeing my numb response to his unbelievable words, Yukitaka Oji-sama placed the phone on the table. He then proceeded to turn on the phone's speaker, or function, so everyone could hear.
Okay, go ahead. You haven't changed, have you? I can never tell if you're listening or not. Then you manage to flatter people into taking action. Didn't I tell you? That's an invaluable technique in this business. Now talk to her. Yeah, fine.
While I haven't fully grasped the situation, Yukitaka Oji-sama and Dad are exchanging words. This is the first time I've heard Papa's voice free from anger or scorn in a long time.
Kurisu.
Papa? Hearing him say my name so suddenly surprises me, almost making me break out in a cold sweat. What I managed to say barely qualifies as a response.
Yukitaka gave me the gist. There's still a lot I don't understand, but it doesn't sound like he's joking.
He fell silent for a while. It seemed he was having trouble finding his words. It's not surprising. Even I had trouble accepting the phone wave when I first saw it. Between my crying and Yukitaka Oji-sama's persuasion, he does seem to realize that we're not kidding. I imagine he's finding it difficult to sort everything out in his head.
Let's start from the ground up. Kurisu, did you really manage to build a time machine?
Yeah, we built it together, but it doesn't really look like...
Using which theory? Wormhole? Did you manage to find superluminal matter? You didn't find an antiparticle, did you? Well, you could have converted the sun's rays for the infinite supply of energy, but that's too unrealistic, which would mean it must be...
Papa interrupts my story to start interrogating me. Though I couldn't tell if he actually wanted me to answer his questions or if he was just thinking out loud. That's a regular occurrence for scientists, but it was remarkably frustrating in light of what was going on around us.
Hey, Shuichi, you're getting sidetracked.
Yukitaka Oji-sama apparently felt the same way as I did, and rebukes my father. Maybe he put me on speaker so he could support me this way.
I know Yukitaka, but if I don't understand everything clearly, I can't give you any advice. We can't even make plans. You've got a point, but somebody's life is on the line. We don't have much time, so please.
He was clearly unsatisfied, but didn't seem unhappy. Perhaps he was taking this more seriously than I expected.
Fine. Kurisu, tell me about the principles behind the time machine you built and what's going on with it now.
Right. Although I'm still processing what's going on. Right now, I certainly felt like our shared father-daughter relationship was beginning to mend. Alright.
So, are you trying to tell me you succeed in generating black holes?
That's right. I'm not entirely sure how we did so, though. I spent about an hour telling Papa about the time leak machine. I was surprised to find that, after my explanation, he was able to accurately identify the time leak machine's capabilities and limitations. As we spoke, we faxed documents to each other, some of which include information that I had overlooked, so this hour was full of surprises. This is the same sort of feeling I get while I'm discussing things with Okabe. Given our understanding of the time leak machine and considering CERN's moves, the conclusion we reached was fairly straightforward.
In light of the current situation, the only option seems to be using a time leak machine to go back to the past and change things. And once you do, if you want to send a D-mail, there's only one option. That kid Okabe Rentaro is the only person with the reading Steiner ability.
Wait, Papa, that's impossible! I considered that plan once before. How well does the time leak machine work? How can D-mail allow us to improve our situation? Both of these questions face a single roadblock. How will what we do change the past? To my knowledge, I have not yet directly experienced a changed past phenomenon. We can only go by Okabe's reports of his experiences. Needless to say, if the past changes, our memories, knowledge, and experience will change with it. To observe that the past has changed, one must retain the memories of the pre-changed past. Otherwise, there's no way to confirm it. That's why only Okabe, whose reading Steiner ability can retain memories of the pre-changed past, and notice the phenomenon occur. Honestly, I found the concept hard to believe since I first heard it. In fact, my belief is entirely predicated on my trust in Okabe. That said, we have accumulated a number of pieces of evidence pertaining to a changed past phenomenon over the course of our D-mail experiments. But we have none for the time leak machine. Based on what Okabe told us, it seems as though the time leak machine hasn't resulted in any changed past phenomenon. Despite Okabe's scant, vague testimony, Papa and I reached the hypothesis that changed past phenomena do not result through the use of the time leak machine. We think the time leak machine only allows one to send themselves back through time, not to change said past. But we can't say for certain. For example, Okabe currently is saying that changed past phenomena does not occur as a result of the time leak machine. But what if that's only because he didn't take any action that would trigger such phenomena? Much like when we began our D-mail experiments, we did not clearly understand what sort of trigger causes the change past phenomenon to occur. And given the delicacy of the situation, we cannot afford to take uncertain measures. In other words, just as Papa said, Okabe is the only person who can solve this. The only one who can interfere with time and actually be aware of the changes he makes. But we can't let him do so in his current state. Okabe is so worn out that he can't take anymore. I thought I explained that, but...
I know it's impossible, I'm fully aware of that. But to saying the impossible is impossible solve our problem?
Well...
Saying that you can't do the impossible is easy, but science's value lies in overcoming the impossible.
I don't need Dad to tell me this. It's obvious to any self-respecting scientist. What is impossible today will become possible tomorrow. My professor at my old lab often quoted Sailovsky's words. I don't even know how to pronounce that, to be honest with you. Considered to be the father of astronautics, a genius that had already completed his astronautic theory before the Wright brothers ever launched their first plane. His contributions to science weren't recognized until he was well into his twilight years. But be that as it may, the impossible is impossible. While there is value in overcoming the things people claim to be impossible, But optimism doesn't let people breathe underwater without an appropriate apparatus, or travel to space using a cannon. Saying things like that are possible is nothing more than junk science.
But Shuichi,
As I was fumbled for a response, Yukitaka Oji-sama interjected.
I'm inclined to agree with her. As far as I understand, it would be difficult to have him do anything right now. I thought you'd say that, Yukitaka. What's that? Who do you think you're talking to? Did you really think I'd overlook something so basic? You underestimate me.
Huh? What is he saying? Completely at a loss as to what my father's getting at, my face goes blank.
What do you think I am? I understand that this Okabe kid is completely worn out, but the fact remains that he's the only one who can solve the situation. Which means we have to make him usable again at all costs. You said you've been trying to save your friend. He's been trying to save your friend Mayuri, right? We have to make him regain that motivation.
Well, he's not wrong. Papa's comment is logical and coherent. He's not wrong. That's obviously the most obvious answer. The question is, how do you go about that? If one ignores the sheer impossibility of the idea, that is. It's impossible. In order to do that, we'd have to convince him that Mayuri really can be saved. The reason Okabe had lost all of his hope and had become so broken is because he thought Mayuri's fate was inescapable. And no matter what he does, or how many times he tries, Mayuri cannot be saved. Conversely, if we could prove that Mayuri can be saved, Okabe may recover. But I don't see how that's possible. I just can't think of a way to save Mayuri. Nobody in the world could.
Of course, you don't see the answer now, but to say nobody in the world could is a fallacy.
Huh? What do you mean? Are you saying you know how to save her?
Stop being absurd. Fundamentals of science are observation, investigation, and experimentation. How do you expect to find an answer when you're only investigating testimony without any observation of your own?
Yeah, everyone's confused here, buddy.
Hirasan, Yukitaka, Oji-sama, and I were all puzzled by Papa's remarks.
You still don't get it, do you? Observation is a vital part of your research, but you can be blinded if you're overwhelmed by what's directly in front of you. Kurisu, this is your current state.
I'm blinded by observation. Papa explains why can't we find the clue to saving Mayuri? Because we have a severe lack of information. Why is that exactly? Because not only do we only have one source of information, but obtaining clear information from that source is very difficult. In other words, we have not been able to extract sufficient information from Okabe, the person with the clearest grasp on the situation, and has been the only one to observe it in detail. At the end of the day, neither Ferris-san nor I have the ability to talk normally to Okabe, making us unable to obtain information we could have obtained had he been in a calmer state. There's no contesting that, but Okabe had already been exhausted because of the Rounders' raid by the time we were able to speak with him. Mayuri and Hashida had been kidnapped and taken somewhere out of our reach. I understand what you're saying, Dad, but that's just an armchair theory. We can't get any more information from Okabe. There isn't anyone who could.
No, there is.
Papa speaks confidently, the way he used to. I haven't heard him sound like that since he answered every question I asked him on my birthday 7 years ago. There is. Who? Who are you talking about, Papa? You know them. Tell me.
Allow me to clarify. That person does not exist right now, but they do in the past. It's you, Kurisu. If you really want to save this kid, you're the only one who can do this.
The past... me. The past. Before Mayuri had been kidnapped, before we encountered the Rounders. Perhaps the me that exists at that point would be able to ask Okabe about the future, and find a clue to saving everyone from there. Yeah, they wouldn't have any hesitations of asking. At least according to Papa.
Leaving to the past on its own isn't enough to change things, but going back will give you the opportunity to do so. As long as the time leap machine only allows you to travel into the past and not change it, Things won't get better. We need to trigger a change past phenomenon. Your job is to provide that trigger.
Papa's idea is for me to leap into the past and tell Okabe to rely on the past me. No matter how you look at it, we don't have enough information. And we can't currently extract any from Okabe. Right now, what we need are information and time. And even after I leap to the past, we'll probably only gain an hour or two at best. Unfortunately, if I try to leap to a time before Okabe tried to break the time leap machine, it may take me a while to figure out what's going on. And if I try to time leap repeatedly to make up for that lost time, there's a possibility that it may inadvertently trigger a change past phenomenon. If that happened, I wouldn't know whether the past changed or not because I lacked the reading Steiner ability. That would render our entire plan meaningless. Just because we don't believe the time leap machine causes change past phenomena doesn't give us free reign to make time our plaything. Directly helping Okabe and taking steps to find a clue to solving our problem is a risky, temporally dangerous proposition. Somehow, I have to convince Okabe to leap back to a more manageable time and have him tell the me of that time period everything he knows. If the Okabe of a better time can provide me all the information he has, that me will be able to serve as Okabe's guide. In short, there's only one thing we can do. Convince Okabe to go and change the past, and in the process, get him to stand back up. That's it.
That's right. We may not be able to talk to Kyoma now, but we can talk to Kyoma from yesterday afternoon.
And with this information, the past Kurisu-chan can find a clue to get us out of this, huh?
It sounds cruel to say, but in our current timeline, it makes perfect sense that Okabe ended up giving up on Mayuri. I don't blame him, but knowing Okabe, if his past self finds out about what happened in this timeline, he will shut down. If that happens, we'll fail all over again. And even if that does happen, I can't blame him. The shock would be overwhelming for anybody. That's why we must eliminate all possibilities that may lead to this.
You have exceptional knowledge. You have exceptional theories. Mobilize every time you have. Guide the kid and save him. Only you can do this. You, where you stand, are the only one capable.
Only I can do this. Standing here. August 13th, 2010, Akihabara. In this place where I work with Okabe as lab member number 4. Yes. Yes, got it.
On top of everything else, there are things that could go wrong. In order to carry out the plan, your past self must believe in this preposterous story.
That's right. Even if I was able to invigorate Okabe, if he can't receive the support from past me, this will all be for naught.
What could you do to make your past self believe something like that?
I run simulations in my head. If you were to tell me about the current situation without the despair he exhibited earlier, I wouldn't believe him. There's no question. I'd probably laugh it off with a cool story, Otsu. I wouldn't give it a second thought. Frankly, it sounds like convincing myself is the biggest problem of all. I know myself. Of course I can't do it, but if I were to go back and tell myself the same story, I still wouldn't believe it. It has to be Okabe. How can I make my past self believe Okabe's words? Don't tell me this is where a certain something's gonna become relevant. Is it something about a spoon, potentially?
Do you have any secrets? Like a star-shaped birthmark on the base of your neck?
Nothing like that. Besides, if Okabe told me my most closely guarded secret, there's a 100% chance that I'd beat him up. If someone like that I'd like to ask, do you like me, don't you? I can't imagine I'd take it very well.
What's up? You figure something out?
A light bulb flicks on in my head. I do have a secret. One that I rarely tell people. I gaze into the cell phone on the table, as if to look at my pop on this other side. Yeah, I think so. I'd probably believe Okabe if he mentioned it. There's one secret in particular. One that leads to a soft spot in my heart, the most sensitive part of me. It's what I desire the most. Is it a spoon? A fork! It's a fork! You already have your own spoon! A fork. I want a fork. It all comes back to that. That was the one thing that made Kurisu start helping us in the original game, now that I think about it. And this is why. A fork. A singular kitchen utensil is what saves
Mayuri's life and eventually Kurisu's in the true ending. A single item that you use to stab into food.
Huh? When I was a kid, I wanted more than anything else. I begged Papa for on my birthday, my personal fork. Since then, that fork became something that touched my heart. A symbol of Papa's love for me when I was little. A symbol of love that I could have received had our relationship not shattered on my birthday 7 years ago. An object inexorable from my childhood heart. That is my personal fork. What I want most right now is my personal fork. If Okabe says that, my past self will probably believe him.
It all comes back to a stupid fork.
Papa is silent. Maybe he knows what I'm talking about. But he won't say a thing. That's just how it is.
Fork. Oh, that!
Why do you know?
Then Yukitaka Oji-sama opens his mouth. That? What does that mean?
Shut up, Yukitaka. Don't say anything else. It's that present for Kurisu-chan that you left at my place, right? Kuroki, will you fetch it?
Yukitaka Oji-sama? Wait a minute. What's he saying?
The fork.
Yukitaka, now's really not the time. No, it is. I've held on to this for long enough.
Dan Yukitaka Oji-sama continued to argue over the phone. When I tried to follow the unfurling drama, Kuroki-san brought out a small, slightly crushed box. Though the colors were faded, the box was beautifully wrapped.
I can't believe this.
Here you are. When Shuichi fought with you 7 years ago, he came here exhausted and left us here. He said that he bought it for his daughter, but he didn't have any use for it anymore. Yukitaka!
I take the box from Kuroki-san and start to unwrap it.
It's a fork! Oh my god.
As I thought, inside the box was a fork with an adorable design.
I finally have it! The fork of destiny!
This... I remember. It's the one I begged Papa for. Something I've wanted for a long, long time. Something I've yearned for in my heart for a long, long time. And it's finally here. Aww. I thought I would never have it. My personal fork always needed to be a present from Papa. Here it is now. It came to me 7 years later. Papa, thank you.
Thank Yukitaka. He was the one who kept it all this time. It's got nothing to do with me. Love? I can't feel that in my soul. Shut up. You're not very honest, are you? Yukitaka, just shut up already. Come on, Shuichi. If you don't drop the stoic act, you may just end up telling your daughter how you feel in front of her corpse.
Papa struggled to choose his words. After a series of tiny groans followed by silence, he finally muttered.
If it's that important to you, your past self will surely believe Okabe if he brings it up. This is all I can do for you, Yukitaka. You're gonna have to make up for putting me through this mess. Yeah, I know.
Papa... Sensing that the call was almost over, I addressed him one last time. But surprisingly, he cuts me off and addressed me.
One last thing, Griso. That kid Okabe from earlier.
Huh? Oh, yeah.
When all this is over, drag him out to Amori and bring him to me. He's got to apologize to me for all its trouble in person.
With the final rant, he hangs up without saying goodbye.
Would you look at that? The character that was kind of a villain for all the main game. He does actually have a heart, it seems.
Papa! He hung up. Yeah, but it's okay.
I can't believe this. The fork came back. I had a feeling, because it was the one thing in the original game that made Karisu start helping us. When we mentioned a fork, as weird as it was, it's the one thing that started making her actually help us. And now we know why it's so important. It's what she wanted for her birthday.
Somehow, at this very moment, my heart felt refreshed. All this time, I thought he didn't love me. Worse, I thought he hated me. That he'd forgotten about me. Even though he's holding his feelings and emotions back, I'm still getting to see them. This may not be unconditional love, but it certainly was at one point. I examine the fork in my hand and I'm filled with the confidence that I was, in fact, loved. He even told me to come visit, so this is only the beginning. Well, who knows if that invitation will still stand once the past changes. I still don't yet understand what the sort of phenomenon that Okabe claims occurs when the past changes. I trust Okabe, but it is subjective, unilateral phenomenon, and as long as it cannot be observed without the reading Steiner, we can do nothing more than guess at its effects. If the past changes and the reading Steiner does activate, does it mean that he travels to another parallel world? Or does it mean that our world disappears? If the past changes, what happens to our current memories, experiences, and our feelings? What about each person's individual wishes and desires? If what Okabe says is true, it could be that when the past changes, all current events are rewritten. But there's no telling whether that's true or not. If, after all, if my feelings still remain, I will definitely go see Dad. With Okabe, as he told me.
Kunyan's papa said to bring Kyoma to Aomori. I can't wait.
For what? I raised a questioning eyebrow at Ferris-san.
Well, Kunyan, you did call Kyoma the person I love, didn't you?
Oh, damn. Uh-oh. What'd she say? Uh-oh.
So now I'm curious of what would happen if you brought Kyoma to Aomori. I can't wait.
That's right. Looking back, I did say that.
Uh-oh.
I told Papa that I love Okabe.
Well. Well. Ah. I grab my head and fall into the oar's position. Please. I said it. I really said it. No. What have I done? What should I do? No.
Well, you gotta take him now.
She's absolutely right. She's right, but why? Why has it come out with that now? And to my father, no less.
No.
Said Ferris-san as she patted my head. Just stop it! Is this the butterfly effect? It took me more than 10 minutes to recover. Gosh dang it. Okabe. Once Papa hung up, Ferris, Yuki, Takaoji-sama, and I finalized our plans, but before heading over to the lab, I wanted to check on Okabe. He looks better rested, thanks to Kuroki-san's treatment. Good. Rest. You don't need any more pain. I gently caress Okabe's cheek. Then Okabe shakes his head and grimaces. Mayuri. He must be dreaming. About her. But it doesn't look like a pleasant dream. Okabe. Hold on. I promise to free you from this nightmare. I'll leap to the past, just as you did for Mayuri. It's funny, isn't it? I had such an aversion to the idea of a time machine at first. My aversion to time machines. It was born out of my rejection of my father's obsession with them. But now I have no such aversion. Especially after learning the truth about CERN's research, getting myself involved in the development of a time machine, and realizing that time machine is more than just junk science. But even putting aside my aversion, I do feel as though using the time machine myself is taboo. The time machine puts godlike powers into our hands. It defangs causality, allowing you to change the past and erase history as we know it. And changing the past is against my personal creed. Papa and I had a big falling out 11 years ago. I won't want to change that painful event just because I have a time machine. Everything that has occurred in my life has shaped the person that I am today. Losing even a single event would make me a different Makise Kurisu. And as long as this is true, I have no need to change the past. Nor do I think the past should change. At least as far as my personal past is concerned. So I'm doing this because of you, Okabe. Because you decided to leap through time over and over again to save Mayuri. Okabe said that the first time was instinctive. He said that it was the only way he could think of to save Mayuri, and his body moved on his own. And once he started, he couldn't stop. Human beings are like that. That's why people shouldn't become so dependent on power or play with forces beyond their control. But knowing the circumstances around his decision, I don't blame Okabe. Besides, my beliefs are my own, not his. In other words, the time leap I'm about to perform isn't something I'm doing myself. Rather, I'm standing in for Okabe just this once. Besides, we had no other option, and if it weren't for Papa persuading me, there's a chance that I wouldn't attempt a time leap at all. Of course, none of that is to say I would put that burden entirely on Okabe. Ultimately, it was my decision. I can't stand seeing Okabe like this. There's no doubt that my desire to save him is a powerful motivator. Sometimes one must take action, even if it goes against their beliefs. While it's common among scientists, it's the kind of situation I never wish to encounter. That's why I promise to guide you. For Mayuri, for myself, and for you, Okabe. Oh right, and for Ashita too. Though he might be able to escape on his own even if he doesn't get killed. Honestly, I'm kinda scared. Even though I created the machine, there's no guarantee that it will work like I expect it to. But when I think you leaped in spite of the danger, I feel selfish. Of course, it is possible that the time leap machine wouldn't work properly on someone without Okabe's reading Steiner ability. It may function differently based on a person's age and gender. Newly created technology always brings with it a number of unknowns. But Okabe leapt through time for Mayuri without a single assurance. So I want to do the same. That's right. For you. But even with my newfound determination, I'm really scared. I can't help it, no matter how much faith I have in my theory. That's why... I'm sorry. I know it's unfair to ask, but... Please, give me courage. I look at Okabe's sleeping face and move closer to him. I put my hands on his shoulders and slowly, gently draw closer. So close I can feel his body heat. Place my forehead against his. Bring my thoughts next to his thoughts. And we exchange a breath and body heat. Despite your Chunibyo nonsense, despite how weird and clueless you are, and despite your nerdy Norse mythology obsession, I love you in spite of it all. I know you only call me Christina, Assistant, Celeb Sev, and the zombie to get on my nerves, but eventually I'll have you call me by my name, straight to my face. That was my one-side confession to a sleeping man. A confession that was unfair in some ways and meaningless in others. I don't expect him to respond. In fact, I'd probably never live it down if he did. It was for nothing more than my own satisfaction. But for now, that's good enough. I don't intend on ignoring Mayuri either. I can make my official confession another time. This is just a sort of ceremony to receive the courage I need. A ritual. With slight reluctance, I pull my body away from Okabe's. I wanted to stay with him a while longer, but I don't have a lot of time. If the Rounders decide to make a forceful move against us, it could be all over. When I stand up and look at Okabe, I can see that Okabe's once pained expression has turned into a more peaceful one. His breathing is normal and sounds healthy. Yeah. He's going to be okay. Hurry, Okabe. I'm leaving. I open the bedroom door and step out into the hall of the living room.
Huh.
I saw Ferris waiting for me. For some reason, she was sighing with disappointment. What is it, Ferris? I realized how suspicious I must look, given what I was just doing in there.
Kunya, from now on, I'm calling you Wimpy.
No. Yeah.
I feel my body temperature spike. I'm sure my face is bright red. Wait, Ferris, you weren't peeking, were you?
I didn't need to peek. I can see right through you using my Cheshire break.
Oh gosh, not this again. There is a special ability which allows her to read the thoughts of an individual. Also the name of her stand. It's not just a feeling she has. By monitoring another person's subtle eye, body, and hand movements, she can tell whether someone is lying or not. Thank you, Ferris.
Let me explain. Cheshire break is Ferris's transcendental demon eye. It allows me to know a person's feelings without a single look in their eyes yet.
Damn.
Anyway, I didn't know Kunya was such a wimp. I'm so shocked, yeah. If we had more time, I would have said take two and have made you do it again, yeah.
Kill her.
Who knew Ferris-san could be like this? She has a weird style of speech and even gives people weird nicknames. Between her and Okabe, why does Akihabara draw so many weirdos?
Keep that up and you'll end up stealing him away from- I'll end up stealing him away from you, yeah.
Said Ferris with a devilish smile on her face. She looks so cute that even I might fall for her. Okabe wouldn't stand a chance. Please, stop kidding around.
I know. I'm just joking. No need to worry. For now.
Ugh. You know that Ferris's true feelings are no joke. Even if I'm not good with people, I understand this much. If someone told me to compete with Ferris fair and square, I would be in real trouble. I don't have the wealth of experience I need to deal with competition like this, especially with everything else going on. I don't think I'd even have the mental capacity for it unless we save Mayuri and the situation stabilized.
So, if you want to stand a chance against me, you gotta fix things, yeah.
Did you just read my mind with Cheshire Break again? Could she really have some sort of psychic power? No, of course not. As a scientist, I can't accept that. But that would mean she has incredibly sharp intuition. Now I'm curious. I want to study this. I'd really like to conduct some experiments with Ferris as my test subject. But I have to hold off for now.
Save Okabe and Mayuri first. Then we'll deal with it.
I know, that's why I'm going. That should do it. Before long, we had made preparations and returned to the lab, where we now stood in front of the time leap machine.
I can convert the big TV downstairs is on you, Kunyan.
Thanks, the lift is ready too. With that, I activate the time leap machine. All that's left is to put on the headgear and press the enter key.
It's almost time, yeah.
Ferris-san came over and held my hand tightly. Yeah, this is the moment of the century. Since Okabe had already used the time machine, this won't be the world's first instance of time travel, but it does mark the dawn of time travel experiments. And I will become one of the pioneers. The fear I felt earlier had waned, replaced by feelings of elation and curiosity. At the same time, if I time leap, my reconciliation with Papa and the gift of my personal fork will be undone. I'll be sending my current memories to a me who exists in the time before I spoke to Papa. After that, I'll be putting all of my efforts towards helping Okabe instead of reconciling with him. If I didn't time leap, would Okabe someday be able to accept Mayuri's death and go to Aomori with me? My mind wanders towards possibilities. I seal away all the confusion in my heart. My pride as a scientist, my feelings towards my father. They are minor compared to what's at stake. This is how it's supposed to be, right, Papa? Okabe, Mayuri, Yoshida. It's all up to me now. The destination is yesterday, around 5:30 p.m. when everything was bathed in twilight. If Okabe were here, he would say I'm going to a place that's neither day or night, but somewhere in between. Twilight. Asogare. The Japanese word comes from how hard it is to see people in the unusual lighting. People would ask one another, "Who are you?" Asokare. I remember one of my upperclassmen at Victor Condria telling me about the mythology of his home country. Once upon a time, the god of lightning forged a deal with a demon. The deal read, the demon shall not, day or night, be harmed by anything wet, dry, or wet. But in order to defeat the demon, the god of lightning created the twilight. And to slay it, he used a weapon made of the bubbles of the ocean, something neither dry nor wet. In another myth, a demon was said to have obtained immunity to humans, gods, beasts, and other demons, whether day or night, inside or outside. In order to oust it, another god became a fusion of both lion and man, which was classified as neither beast nor human, and during the twilight, defeated the demon standing in a doorway, neither outside nor in. That's what he told me. Perhaps the moral of this myth is that, when you are presented with two losing options, keep calm and think about whether there is a third. By using reason and by thinking outside the box, you can always find a third option. How oddly suited Twilight is to untangling the mess of causality in order to arrive at the correct option. What am I doing, thinking of myths at a time like this? I suppose that's just how we are. Most scientists are just romantic chunibyo. Spend enough time around them and it's only a matter of time before they rub off on you.
What's the matter, Nya? Hey, Kunyan.
Don't worry, it's nothing. Okay, I'm going to leave now. Take care of everyone.
Just leave it to me, Nya.
I smile at her, then put on the headgear. Electricity arcs through the air, and my surroundings are consumed by a whitish blue light. The ground shudders below my feet. Let's go. Press the enter key on the keyboard. My body shakes as if I'm caught in the middle of a large earthquake. It's enough to throw me into the air. I felt like my body was about to make the leap along with my memories. No, that's not what leaped. Was it the world? What is this? A ringing in my ears pierces deep into my brain like a metal pair of forceps. It feels as though the cells of my central nervous system are being torn apart in every direction, down to the atomic level. Sight, sound, touch, smell, taste. All 5 of my senses ignore my brain signals and receive information of their own accord. And it's not just my senses. My heart starts acting on impulse, running through motions until it feels like I'm about to burst. This is... Yes. Observe. Observe. Analyze. I have to determine what this is. Extreme nausea and drunkenness erupt through me. My sense of gravity grows vague, and I'm jumbled around back and forth, side to side and up and down. The image of the world reconstructs in my brain as if an artist put it together out of scattered mosaic tiles. That's right. I remember the future. This is the worst feeling. The world gradually comes back together. As my vision grows clearer, the mysterious sounds and sensations withdraw, as if I'm awakening from a dream. When I come to, I'm curled into the fetal position on the floor of the lab. The rays of sunset beam through the window. We really need to experiment. I didn't think it'd be this bad. I'll keep that in mind for later. You could ride a roller coaster over and over again and still not feel this sick. This is valuable data. I wonder why. Does the brain get confused by memories that theoretically shouldn't exist and force the body through a series of illusions? It can't be a simple physiological phenomenon. But Akabe could have warned me. At any rate, I still feel sick. This degree of discomfort could make it dangerous for anyone frail to use. They'd be consumed by it. Could this be one of the reasons Okabe broke down the way he did? I can see how this would wear on you. I'm sorry, Okabe. I managed to keep the contents of my stomach where they belong, and check the time on my cell phone. August 13th, 1724. The time leap was a success. Success being a relative term. I've been in pain for about 10 minutes now. I wonder how it was for Okabe. From what I observed, it didn't look like his time leaps took as much out of him. Did he get used to it? Or maybe the effects vary between men and women, or from person to person. Besides, Okabe has reading Steiner too. I sluggishly pull myself to my feet. I have to get to the bridge in front of the UPX, like Ferris told me. If she's right, Okabe should be there.
So that's why Ferris knew in the original playthrough why... Wow.
You only have a couple of hours before Mayuri dies. Considering it was around 7 p.m., I have an hour and a half. I have to reinvigorate Okabe and send him back to the past within that time. I know this is the only way. If Okabe has a time leap, it means he has to go through the same discomfort. Okabe, I'm really sorry. I'll upgrade to make it less physically taxing next time. To keep Okabe from getting too concerned, I won't tell him that I performed a time leap to be here. That's the rule. Let's go. Wait for me, Okabe. The effects of the time leap are unexpectedly intense. I didn't expect the road to feel this long. I can normally get there in no time. It takes all my strength just to keep my legs moving, and every breath is a struggle. Eventually, however, I make it in front of the UPX. There. Just ahead of me, I saw Okabe crouched down in the middle of the UPX bridge. Even now, he looks so despondent. It was hard for me to believe that Okabe could look so depressed. For me, this was a mere 20 hours ago, but for him, it could have been a lifetime. Just seeing him like this nearly brings me to tears. But crying now would be meaningless. I didn't jump back in time to cry. I must reach out to Okabe. That's what I should do. Something only I can do. Hey, Okabe. Just how many times have you remembered your horrible memories from the future? How many times have you witnessed Mayuri's death? In the middle of the city, overflowing with sounds of joy and excitement, you have fought alone, and it's reduced you to this. Unable to rely on anyone else, torn apart in body and soul. The agony and despair are breaking you. I'm sorry. I watched you all this time, but I never realized. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry I made you fight alone. Hey, Okabe. I don't want to see you like this. I want you to call me by those weird nicknames. Assistant. Christina. The zombie. Celeb Sev. They're annoying, but one day I want you to call me by my name, but... It's more like you call me by those... It's more like you to call me by those nicknames. I want that you back. Hey, Okabe. Am I going to be able to show you the right path as worn out as you are? Will I be able to help you? I want to save you. Of course I want to save Mayuri and Ishida too, but... most of all, I want to save you. I don't want to hide this feeling from myself. I already opposed my own beliefs for it. I erased reconciling with Papa after 10 years of thinking he hated me. So Okabe, next time, I want you to rely on me. On me, your ally. On me, your assistant. If you do, I will absolutely show you the way. I take a deep breath, suppressing the emotion that almost crushes my heart. I stand in front of Okabe, begging my voice not to tremble. What are you doing sitting around, you DQN idiot? When I call out to him, Okabe slowly lifts his head and looks at me with hollow eyes.
Vermilion Soteria. And that's how we ended up, and that's how Kurisu ends up helping out Okabe. So, if we start at now, indeed, there are 3 new paths discovered. So we still have, obviously, Daru's, the Cage Bird Sings, Kurisu, we have Suzuha with Ghostly Rendezvous. Oh, we have Mr. B. Is that Tanuji?
Mr. Ron, Built with Love, and Ferris Nyan 2, Superhero Chat Noir, 3.3 and 0.33. Okay. So, two of these timelines also seem to follow in the same, are in the... We need to have a what's a world line name we can have for 3, or... Well, technically speaking, 0... having the world line be in 0 means that's in the alpha. 1 would be considered beta. 2 would be whatever you call C, Charlie, I guess? So let's have 3 be delta. We'll call 3 the delta world line, going by the logic of those. So, going by that logic, 3 of these other chapters seem to be in the delta world line, what I'm calling it. But I think we will go ahead and end it here for today, and we'll work on... I think next time we'll go ahead and do Daru's chapter. After having another depressing chapter, I think I'm ready for something that might just maybe give me something more silly to boost my spirits up with this series. So, yeah. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and hope to see you all later. Peace.